Well, hello. Welcome to one and all, and welcome to the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. This is the second shootout that we will be having here this evening. 3 races going to be happening here today to decide who are the other 14 cars, 14 drivers that get themselves through to the very next stage of competition in that main season. My name is Connery Maddock. I'll be your English commentator throughout this evening. And well, if you're German or you understand German, you want to go and listen to the German stream and the German commentators, then of course we are also broadcasting this with German commentary over on the ADAC YouTube and Facebook pages. So the ADAC YouTube and Facebook pages where you want to go if you want to listen to the German commentary instead of myself. But I won't judge you if you do decide to go and listen to someone else. But moving on, here is the timetable for this evening's event. We start here at the Red Bull Ring. Then we head to Zandvoort, and then, of course, for the finale today, we will be heading to the Nürburgring. 3 very, very significant races here today, everyone. It is the last chance for these drivers to secure themselves a permanent driver slot in the 2021 ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship season to play for all of that prize money at the end of the season. We've already had 1 shootout. We've already had 14 drivers locked in to the next stage of competition, but we have another chance for even those that were in that shootout and didn't get themselves qualified, and of course some additions from the leaderboards a little bit earlier on this week as well to try and vie for those final 14 spots in the actual championship. So let's have a look at the entry list here today. You've got, of course, many names that lots of you would have seen already in the RaceRoom Esports side of things. You have Kevin Siggy, the driver that's always, well, whatever car you throw at him, he typically goes very, very quick in it as well. You got Jeremy Bayfield, you got Adam Pincez, who took part in last week's event, but unfortunately wasn't able to get himself qualified through. Gianmarco Fiduci, he's in the same situation as well. Same with Mark Gassner. So a lot of very familiar names from last week getting themselves this second shot at getting themselves into the permanent slots for the upcoming season. Matthias Boldorf, you got Leonard Klippener, you got Moreno Sarica there for Williams Esports as well. You got further names, you got names like Neuenhoff, who competed last week as well. Thibaut Kazubon making himself an appearance here in the second shootout to get himself qualified into the next season. Of course, a very competent driver on other platforms. Let's see how many of these drivers do here today. Max Pfeiffer, Dennis Grabowski further back through the entry list here. We can see the final couple of drivers that will be competing here today. Of course, you got the likes of Leon Rudinger, David Toth, David Navi. So lots and lots of names that people will very much be familiar with here in the RaceRoom side of things here in sim racing. And can't wait to really get it started here. They're currently out there in practice with regards to this circuit, the Red Bull Ring. Of course, a very, very fast and furious circuit indeed. A very stacked field about to take themselves to qualifying as well. We've got still about 4.5 minutes of practice here, so still some time for the drivers to get themselves set, get them comfortable with the situation out there on track, and prepare themselves for what will be a very, very frantic qualifying session. Of course, the pressure is much more on when it comes to this second shootout than the first shootout, because the first shootout, a lot of drivers just thought, well, you know, even if I don't get qualified through this shootout, then I potentially have that second shootout where I can get myself qualified. But well, this is the last chance saloon now. It's if you don't qualify through this shootout, then you won't qualify at all for a permanent driver slot. Of course, you can get a guest slot for the next season, just in case a couple of the other primary full-time drivers can't make it, but then you're still not eligible for any prizes at the end of the season. So those permanent driver slots are very, very valuable indeed. And of course, you know, there might be a couple of names out there that you would expect to get themselves through to the main season, the likes of Kevin Siggy, for example. You got Pincez out there, and lots and lots of names that should get themselves through. But as we saw last week, that is never a guarantee, with a couple of drivers getting themselves into a little bit of an awkward situation, but still able to qualify. Example being Moritz Lohner in the first race, having a horrible time, but he was able to recover and get himself qualified into the next season. Speaking of Moritz Lohner, I see he is in the chat right now. It feels good to relax this time around, Moritz, and not have to be out there racing and trying to scrap your way back through the field as was last week. But so I hope you enjoy the broadcast as a spectator rather than a driver. Biscuit Technician, is that Connery speaking? Yes, it is. My name is Connery Maddock. I am a sim racing esports commentator, and I am all alone here for at least this evening. So it's just going to be me in the commentary box and no one else. But we've got a couple of minutes now left in qualifying, left in practice, excuse me, before we get ourselves our qualifying session started here at the Red Bull Ring. And of course, if you're just joining us, we have this first race here at the Red Bull Ring. Then we'll be heading to Zandvoort for race number 2. And then at the end of the evening, we will be heading to the Nürburgring to get ourselves basically the decider on who is going to be finishing inside that top 14 and who unfortunately is going to have to go home and not get that ticket into the primary driver slots for next season. To recap though, those that did qualify from the first shootout, these are the names: Jack Heathley, Christopher Högfeldt, Nesta Garcia, Tim Yarshall, Ben Spanky, Jacob Brzezinski, Jojo Baldi, Moritz Lohner, Michael Rachel, Lucas Müller, Florian Hasse, Nikdem Wisniewski, Alexander Dorneden, and Martin Varner. Those are the 14 drivers that qualified through the first shootouts. Therefore, they will be not be making an appearance here today. This is for the rest of them that didn't get themselves through, plus some additional drivers from the leaderboards from this week as well in terms of the hot laps. So, like I said, a couple of familiar names from last week, but a couple of new ones as well. I certainly can't wait to get this one started. Just 40 seconds left in practice here before we get ourselves the qualifying session underway. Of course, big expectations for a handful of drivers here coming into this. It would be a disappointment to go so far with the leaderboards and getting into this shootout only to just drop by the wayside at the very, very, very last moment when you could have gotten yourself across the line. You see a handful of, well, lots of drivers down towards pit lane. That's just because practice is going to end in just a couple of moments' time, and then we'll get ourselves qualifying started here. Of course, you can run a lot of laps in qualifying here at the Red Bull Ring. It is a very, very short circuit indeed. We are on the order of just under a minute and a half in terms of lap times here. So the session clock has ticked down to 0, so the session is ending. We'll get ourselves transferred over in just a couple of moments' time. But yes, a lot of discussion. There are still a lot of big names that haven't qualified just yet, and I would definitely agree. It's a pretty stacked second qualifier here today. The 10 minutes of qualifying here at the Red Bull Ring has started, and there's already an instant coming off of pit lane. Who was that? I did not quite spot it, but, well, there's, that's probably not the ideal way to start off your qualifying session by having an incident immediately coming off of pit lane. I believe that car might have been Martin Stefanko, since he is down on towards pit lane at the moment. There's yet more incidents on the opening lap here as drivers just try and find out where they want to run here for the early parts of qualifying. Lots of jostling for track position to try and find the appropriate amount of space. Of course, in the first sector here especially, draft so important as well, but through the rest of the lap, it's not really going to help you whatsoever. coming through this middle sector now, as this track has a huge amount of elevation changes, as you have to wrestle with the dynamics of the car coming through these couple of apexes, and now heading towards that final sector on this little straight down towards turn number 7, before these drivers can then start themselves the first of their flying laps in this qualifying session. We're having a look at Gianmarco Fiduci at the moment, as he will start his qualifying lap in his Audi. We will just run on board with the front camera of him as he heads his way across the start-finish straight on that uphill braking zone in towards turn number 1. Important to be able to swing out wide as much as possible on entry there, of course, while remaining within the track limits, to be able to carry the speed all the way through, and that speed will benefit you all the way down the back straight here in towards turn number 2. Yet another uphill braking zone here. Get 2 tires onto that curb, try and be a little bit neater onto that apex there. And now the exit of turn 2, another little mini straight now, going further down the hill this time into a downhill braking zone at turn number 3. You have to be a little bit earlier on the brakes here than you expect because it's downhill. Fiduci negotiating that very, very well indeed. Of course, he has a little bit of slipstream from the Mercedes up ahead of him as well. Now, coming through turn 4, make sure you get that car slowed down. Exit curb, and make sure you just feed the line through. It's all about consistency here at the Red Bull Ring. It's all about momentum. If you deviate your line slightly, especially through those medium to high speed corners, then you're going to be losing a whole bunch of time. You have to be absolutely pitch perfect with your line. But as these drivers are now going to be heading their way across the line to complete the first of their flying laps, Pejic gets himself up to the provisional pole position here at the early stages of this qualifying session. No one able to quite match him just yet. Ridgefeld getting himself up into P2. The Mercedes, well, there's a whole bunch of Mercedes and quite a few Audis here today. That seems to be where the balance of performance is here for this one. I am seeing a lone Bentley at the moment of Jan Stange. He's currently way down the order, has not set himself a qualifying time just yet here in this one, but that's the initial running order here for the early stages of qualifying. It's so important to get yourself a banker lap in. Of course, not really as important at a circuit such as this, where you get so many opportunities to be able to set yourself a fast lap time, but it's still beneficial to have that decent time at the very start of the session that allows you to push a little bit more in the closing minutes of qualifying. So you don't risk invalidating your lap and then not having a qualifying time at all. So currently 29 drivers have set themselves qualifying times. The top 28 are all within a single second here in qualifying, which is what we absolutely love to see in terms of the field being so close and competitive. Currently, we do not have qualification times just yet from Julian Kunster, who's up on screen for you right now. He's currently coming towards the end of a lap here, so we will be able to get a time set in the early portions of this session. Alessandro Ottavani and Luciano Wittvoet. I apologize, Dutch names always trip me up. I think you should go back to the Shootout 1 broadcast to see me struggling with some Dutch names, but 2 drivers currently not able to get themselves a qualifying time just yet. But still, 5 minutes left to go, still plenty of laps to be able to get yourself a competitive time in. There is Mr. Kevin Siggy, of course, one of the, I guess, more experienced drivers in the competition at the moment, as he heads his way back out onto circuit on another outlap. Make sure he doesn't impede too much of the traffic on its way through, but he is able to get well out of the way. But P4 at the moment for Kevin Siggy, not too bad at all, especially when you consider it is the top 14 cars from the 3 standings across the 3 races here today that go through as a permanent driver. So you don't really need to be setting the world on fire with regards to being on the podium or even being in the top 5. You just need to get those consistent top 10 finishes, and you're pretty much set to being able to get yourself qualified through into the next stage of competition. So in a way, like I said in the very first shootout, the battles that we'll be focusing on, especially in race number 3, are those around that top 10, top 14 spots, rather than that's the very front of the field. It's always important to keep those sorts of things in perspective. These drivers know what the goal is, finish top 14, everything else is just extra. Coming up to 3 minutes left here in qualifying. Marko Pejic still leading the way as provisional pole sitter, but Ritsfeldt is only 2 thousandths of a second behind him, so that's how close it is, right at the very front. Erhan Jajowski went purple through Sector 1, decent Sector 2 as well, so he might be on to be able to challenge for P1 here. Singh in the slipstream up behind the Mercedes ahead of him. Across the line he goes. It's an improvement, but it's not an improvement in terms of position there for Erhan Jajowski. Of course, another strong driver in this competition and in very many RaceRoom events that we've had as well. He'll take the tow back to pit lane. He will have enough time to get himself back out there and to get another lap in. There's your provisional pole position sitter at the moment. There is Marko Pejic, who hasn't really had a particularly good Sector 1 here, so looking unlikely that he will be able to improve on his already amazing pole position time at the moment. Did so on that previous lap though, I suspect. So yeah, because that gap at the very front has extended now up to a 10th of a second, whereas it was about 2 thousandths of a second between P1 and P2. Petr Pilska getting himself up into that front row of the starting grid for the moment. Great lap there from the Italian. There he is up on the screen. He's gone even faster through Sector 1 as well. So as long as he gets a pretty tidy Sector 2 and 3 here, pole position might be on for the Italian driver of Petr Pilska, or Pliska, as I will try to get my pronunciation right here today. Currently sitting up behind one of his fellow Mercedes here. He has to be very, very careful that he isn't impeded on this lap. He's able to go green in Sector 2. And that Sector 1 gain was by about, well, just over a 10th of a second. So this is looking like a very, very good lap right now for Petr Pilska. Let's see, now coming towards the right, towards the end of the lap. And now the final corner, careful up over the curbs. That car looked pretty unsettled. Now careful, oh no, he's completely butchered it. At the very end of the lap there, went off the circuit, and of course, do that, your lap will be invalid. So that was unfortunate there, because that time from Pliska was on for provisional pole position there, which was so unfortunate there. But still, second row start for Pliska. Here's Gianmarco Fiduci heading his way across the line now. Still P6 at the moment for Fiduci. No improvement there on his particular lap time, but well, here's the qualifying order then. This is how the grid will line up for race number 1 of Shootout 2 here in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. Of course, our title sponsor, thank you very much to EnBW Plus Mobility. Marko Pejic is in pole position with Kevin Siggy on that front row as well. Petr Pilska in P3 with Ritsfeldt in P4. Jajowski, Fiduci, Leitner, Pinces, Kripina, and Kazubon will round out the top 10. Pfeiffer, Drovasikov, Isaac Price, and Mark Gassner will round out the top 14. That's where you need to be with regards to getting yourself inside of the automatic qualification spots for the next season. But of course, you saw the rest of the grid cycle themselves through. We will now get ourselves some 5 minutes of warm-up here before we get ourselves started for race number 1 of today. Race number 1 of 3, so a lot of racing to take place here today. And of course, each race is going to be 40 minutes long. So a lot of racing, a lot of commentating for me, but more importantly, a lot of driving for the drivers, because that's, you know, for what is mainly or primarily a sort of sprint racing series, it's more like an endurance level of driving time this evening than anything else. So maybe we'll start to see the fatigue set in a little bit more. towards the final race of today at the Nürburgring. We are definitely seeing less variety in terms of the car choices for this second shootout than we saw for the first one. Of course, a New Balance performance update had just come out for the first shootout, so therefore people were still trying to figure out exactly which car is the best for the 3 circuits that we had last week. And of course, they were kind of 3 very different circuits as well, so we saw a lot more variety in terms of the car choices for that one. But for this one, it seems to be, well, it's all Mercedes, all and Audi, and we have a single Bentley in the field here today. So, so a lot less variety here in this one compared to what we had last week. But of course, if the racing stays the same, then I certainly am not complaining. Of course, we do have one scheduled stop here in these events. You have to come down on pit lane at some point in the middle of the race to be able to, or near enough the middle of the race to get yourself the one scheduled stop under your belt. But of course, we saw a lot of drivers in the first shootout come down in early to get their scheduled stop out of the way, and a handful of drivers pushed the stop as long as possible to be able to get it done as late as possible. But it seemed like the consensus from all of the drivers that pitting early is better, just so that you don't get any sort of basically you're all covering off each other's undercut, as far as I'm concerned with that one. Track position so important here, especially when everyone is so close, both on clear air pace and of course in terms of the racecraft with regards to overtaking as well. We saw some fantastic action last time. There's Erhan Yayovsky. He did not compete in the first shootout, but he's here for the seconds. Of course, competed last season as well, so he's hoping that he can get himself another shot, well, another attempt at going for the big prize at the end of the season by securing that permanent driver slot. Today he will be in the Audi like many other cars. We do have more Mercedes than Audis, but it seems to just be that 50 more. It's very close to a 50-50 split in terms of the manufacturers here today. Are these custom liveries, says Woodwolf? Some of them yes, some of them no. We don't get full custom liveries, I don't think, until we actually get into the main season. So for now, a lot of drivers, especially if they hadn't taken part last season, will be in their well, not their default livery, but the livery they can only use. It's not custom, is what I'm saying. "30 seconds left here in the practice session. A couple of drivers diving their way down on towards pit lane. All the preparations are done, qualifying is done, the grid is set for the first race here, and well, how well you do in the first race here today will perhaps set the tone for your day. So important to get yourself off to a good start here in race number 1. Get yourself that points buffer and make sure that you can finish inside the top 14 in terms of the points at the very end of this. But time has expired here in the warm-up. We'll be going to the starting grid in just a couple of moments' time. So slowly but steadily, the drivers will get themselves ready, and of course bring themselves onto the starting grid before we can get the race started here today. You can see them all lining up there. Pole position, of course, starting on the outside here at this circuit, which can be some trouble at times, given if that car in second place can get themselves a good start, that they will have the inside line coming up in towards turn number 1. Pejic has to be aware of that, so has Kevin Siggy on the front row. We're about to get race number 1 of Shootout 2 started here at the Red Bull Ring for the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. We are underway as the drivers will begin that climb up the hill towards turn number 1. Pejic has gotten himself a very good start there from pole position, able to lead them through. There's contact in the background. Krippner is spun around on the exit of turn number 1. That was an instant there that was just outside, or rather inside of that top 10. He spins, and now there might be some action at the very front here because Siggy's having to go defensive because Peter Peliska is looking all over the back of him. Jeffrey Ritfeld and Johan Jajowski are going side by side there for P number 4 out on circuit at this very early stage. Jajowski on that driver's left-hand side. Ritfeld having to duck back in. Now he'll go back for the move down the inside into the downhill braking zone. Not going to be able to get anything done there, so falls back in line, single file. Everyone else at the very front of the field seemingly was okay, but we had, of course, that car of Leonard Krippner spun around. I didn't quite see what happened in the contact, and unfortunately, we won't be able to get any replays for the length of today. There's another car off there. There is Ciara. Ciara has gone off there in that Mercedes and pretty major damage to the front end of that car as well. So troubles for the mid-pack, troubles for the back of the pack as well. Denis Grabowski has also had a moment here as well in the Audi. So a couple of names already dropping down the order thanks to instance and problems that we've seen here. Meanwhile, everyone else coming on towards lap number 2 now. All single filed out, but you do want to get yourself in that slipstream to try and make some moves here in towards turn 2. Let's see if Leitner gets close enough to Fiduci to go for a move. He does. Adam Pinces simultaneously goes for it as well. Pinces down the inside of Leitner there for P7 on track. They will continue with the door-to-door action all the way on this stretch between turn 2 and 3. It's absolutely neck and neck between the two drivers here. And is the pass complete? Pinces has been able to squeeze his way through. Pfeiffer and Kazubon are going wheel to wheel in the background there as well for P10, or rather P9. As that battle will continue on, Kazubon having to now try and defend from Mark Gassner, who's a little bit further back as well. So a lot of fighting, a lot of scrapping here coming towards the end of the long straights, which is what we expect to see in this event. Gassner got a very poor run coming off the turn here, off of turn number 6, and now in towards turn number 7, having to go side by side with Dravosikov. They make contact in the middle of the corner, and now Nudinghoff is looking to get himself involved. Nudinghoff down the inside at the final turn, and Nudinghoff, well, he has the position here, but I get the feeling he'll be more scrapping because there's lots of maneuvering back there on the way up in towards turn 1, but no one going to commit to the move here just yet. Single file for turn 1. It's not the biggest of overtaking opportunities, that one. You might as well just bide your time and wait to get it done in towards turn number 2 instead. Battle for P3 though up on your screen as Pilska goes down the inside of Rietveld. Going to continue this fight now down that run between 2 and 3. Hilska on the inside, Rietveld on the outside. I know they're two very similar liveried cars, and it's very hard to tell the difference between the two of them, but Rietveld got very wide and very loose coming off the corner, and this might give the opportunity now to Gianmarco Fiduci, excuse me, to try and find a way by. You can see that Audi's all over the back of the Mercedes, but still yet no way through for Fiduci, and Jajowski's also got himself involved there as well. He's got himself ahead, in fact, of Fiduci there. So a lot of scrapping here. Inside the top 5, outside the top 5, absolutely everywhere you look on circuit, it seems to be a fight that is demanding our attention. Looking a little bit further back, this is the battle between Kirill Antonov and Isaac Price. Up on screen right now, there they are. Mercedes versus Audi on the way in towards turn number 1 here. Of course, we don't expect any moves up into here. You got to focus on getting that exit, getting that run instead. And probably not the ideal line through the exit of the corner there for the Russian driver. So he's going to have to duck back in line and move. Shouldn't be on here up in towards turn number 2. But there is a move happening further up, though, as Nürburgring was trying to get onto the back of Garstner. Drovesikov now looking to try and capitalize on Nürburgring's bad run through that corner as well. So again, lots of drivers trying to fight for track position side by side and further down the road, as well as Leitner and Pfeiffer were going at it. Leitner able to hold on for now, but you can see how much all of this fighting has done in terms of the separation in that train, because for a couple of races we saw in Shootout 1, everyone was, you know, in the leading pack, was able to keep themselves very close together no matter what track we were at. But because there's been so much fighting and so much door-to-door action, everyone's just kind of been tripping over each other and slowing each other up, which is why you see the separation in the trains of cars here at the moment. On the way in towards turn number 1 now, and well, that's the battle for P3. Going side by side through turn 1, and Rietveld able to squeeze his way through. Pliska will be able to come back at him here coming down the back straight. Let's see if he's able to make the pass back then into turn 2. Remember, there's a whole bunch of drivers behind that would really prefer to stick their nose in and try and gain a couple of positions here, and that's the risk that Pliska has to be aware of, because Yayovsky was really pressuring him there inside of turn 2, but that pressure didn't result in a pass. But that's the risk you run in situations like this, where you're fighting so hard, you're bringing other third, fourth, fifth parties back into the fight. And they might try and capitalize, or, well, they definitely will be looking to try and capitalize on any sort of mistake whatsoever. There's the battle for P8 between Max Pfeiffer and Norbert Leitner. They've had a little bit of door-to-door action already in this race, but believe it or not, we're only about 7 minutes into this race, and it feels like we've had 30 go by already with the amount of action that we've seen. Remember, we still have that one scheduled stop to be concerned about. We'll have to see how that factors in for potentially the middle of this race, but we saw a large handful of drivers in Shootout 1 come down in around about the 30-minute mark, which is in a couple of laps time here, 2, maybe 3 laps before we'll start to see the first handful of drivers decide that pitting is a good idea. Everything just calming down just that little bit more here as drivers find their footing and find their correct running order. Less scrapping over the last couple of moments than compared to what we saw at the very, very start of the event. By the way, while we've been talking about these battles for P3 and back, both P1 and P2 have absolutely checked out. Pejic and Siggy have gotten themselves about a 4.5 second gap over P3 here. So the top 2 drivers, well, there's Marko Pejic, who's in the race lead right now. There's the pink Audi behind him, who is Kevin Siggy. So that's P1, P2. They have gotten themselves a very, very healthy gap indeed over the rest of the field. So they're looking pretty good now for the final 30 minutes of this race. I don't think they're going to have to worry too much about drivers closing in from behind. Of course, it's always a concern that you have to have in the back of your mind, but seeing a gap like that with only coming up to 10 minutes gone in the race, being that Pejic and Siggy are feeling very, very comfortable at the moment. Mark Garstner going to have to try and defend from Nürburgring here coming into the next corner, because Nürburgring is primed, ready for a move, and there goes the send. down the inside at turn 2. Can't quite complete the move though, coming off the corner. Garstner had a little bit better speed there. And he's able to carry that slight bit of momentum now down in towards turn 3. Is Nuninghoff going to dive down the inside again? No, he's going to look to the outside, but the lane's blocked by Leitner. Or by Garstner, excuse me. Getting the names confused slightly here. Nuninghoff. Again, couple of opportunities going his way, and now he has to look in his wing and rear view mirrors because Kirill Antonov is now applying heavy pressure towards the back of that Mercedes. Remember, these are pretty crucial points here, just outside the top 10. Of course, top 15 drivers score points. Top 14 in the standings get themselves qualified into the permanent driver slots for next season. And there's the first couple of drivers heading their way down on towards pit lane. Nuninghoff in, Antonov in, a handful of front runners as well also decided to come in at this stage, but not a huge amount, I must say. It's a decent chunk, don't get me wrong, but not everyone deciding to come down in at this very, very earliest opportunity that they'll be able to get the stop done within the regulations. Battle for P4 as it stands at the moment. There's Erhan Yajovski and Gianmarco Fiduci. Very, very close indeed, and Rietveld not too far down the road either. So certainly a possibility that these drivers will be able to close in if they get a handful of decent laps together. I just saw Yajovski just get a bit of oversteer coming through the right. Not exactly ideal, especially given that well, those tyres haven't been completely butchered just yet. Another little moment there from Yajovski coming up over the curbs, which unsettled the car. So Yajovski struggling to keep the car pointed in the right direction at the moment. Fiduci hasn't really been able to capitalize on any of those little moments, though. They've just happened at the wrong times for him. Both of them avoid pit lane this time around. You can see on the left-hand side the little icon to the right of the gap for each driver. You see either the red or the green. The green means they've decided that they've come down on towards pit lane and have gotten their scheduled stop done. If they're red, then they still need to do that at some point. But you see Garstner dropping down the order, same with Witthout. So those drivers have decided to come down on towards pit lane on this lap. I get the feeling we'll see drivers now come in sort of slightly more in drips and drabs at this stage. Fiduci has a very, very good run here coming down in towards turn 2. Not going to go for any sort of move whatsoever though, just going to stay in line, playing it a little bit more conservatively here, and why not? You're in the top 5, only top 14 go through in terms of point standings, so why not? You know, it just get that top 5 points secure, go through into the next race, make sure you get inside the top 10 or ideally the top 5 again. It'll put you in a very, very good spot in terms of the points coming into that final round of today. Door-to-door action, maybe even a little bit of contact between David Toth and Breno Sarica there for P8, P9. Again, these drivers haven't decided to come down on towards the pit lane just yet. Well, Sarica's going to spoil that for me as he decides that he wants to come in on this lap. A driver behind as well. I think that was Manuel Rodriguez. Has also decided to come down in. Yes, it was Rodriguez. So he's going to get himself stopped in his pit box in just a couple of moments. Same with Sarica as well. So yet more pit stops happening. Around about half the field has now come down on towards pit lane for their scheduled stops. The other half, of course, going a little bit longer on this first stint just to make sure they're looking a little bit better for that second stint. There's the battle continuing, though, for P4 between Erhan Yajovski and Gianmarco Fiduci. Haven't really let each other haven't given each other much room to breathe here in this particular battle. lot of comments with regards to the balance of performances for this event. Yeah, it's not what we're used to seeing with the decent variety of cars, especially the variety that we had in shootout number 1. As there's Yayovsky visiting pit lane. Fiduci did decide to stay out though, so a little bit of a difference in the strategy here in this battle for P4. So Yayovsky in, there we go, getting himself stopped in his pit box, absolutely fine. And getting his service done as well. The closest battles on track are actually more towards the very bottom of the order right now, especially in this particular train, which consists of the drivers from P25 through 28 here. So a train that's 4 cars strong. Of course, these guys aren't scoring points at the moment. The points are only down to the 15th spot, so this is more more racing for pride at the moment with these cars at the very bottom of the order. Of course, Kripner, who's right on the very back of the train, he had that big old spin through turn 1 on the first lap, so he's on a bit of a recovery drive here, but kind of getting stuck up behind this train for the moment. Down the inside, ooh, Vanna had a big look there, but not going to be successful. It does mean that Kripner can come at Vanna now down towards the next braking zone. Just going to stay in line though, not looking at all optimistic and trying to get the move. Meanwhile, there's Kevin Siggy, so he's come down in for his scheduled stop. Same with Rietveld as well. So I'm paying particular attention to Rietveld because, of course, he was embroiled in that battle with, battle for P4 out there on circuit. So with Yayovsky, so we'll get to see where he comes out in relation to Yayovsky. There is Yayovsky coming out of the final corner right now. Where is Rietveld? There he is, coming through the pit exit, and he's gonna come out well ahead of Yayovsky, so a great stop there from Rietveld. Puts a couple more seconds in between himself and Yayovsky at the moment, so Yayovsky losing out quite a bit in that particular sequence of stops. He sits about 2.5 seconds behind Rietveld now, so great pit stop phase for Jeffrey Rietveld. Let's have a look further back through the order though, because there's Kirill Antonov and Mark Garsner going wheel to wheel. Audi versus Mercedes. Mercedes just about still creeping ahead by the time the braking zone arrives. Antonov will still try and commit to the outside, looking for the inside now off the corner. He's just about got a nose in there, coming through the right-hander, and now as they head their way up towards the middle sector, through turn 4, no space on the outside there for Antonov to try and get it done, but again, he'll cut back towards the inside here, almost makes contact with the Mercedes. But again, another attempt that goes awry for Antonov. He's trying every single trick in the book right now to try and get past Gassner. None of them successful at the moment. Look how close he's following through the final couple of corners of the lap, and in fact he pushes a little bit wide. As a result, he has to be very careful about Drovesikov behind him as well, who's certainly primed in the best position possible to capitalize if anything happens in amongst the 2 cars ahead of him. I did see a drive-through penalty actually come through for Isaac Price, I believe it was. So Isaac Price getting himself, yeah, there it is, at least briefly. I'm not sure what's up with the graphics, but briefly Isaac Price has gotten a penalty, and yet again this battle is happening up in towards turn 2 as Antonov again tries to go around the outside, but well, just like last time, it simply does not happen, and Drovesikov now primed, ready and waiting to make a move on that Audi, looking to the outside now for turn 3. Oh, a lot of momentum being carried there by Drovesikov. No speed off the corner either. Nuninghoff in the red Mercedes is also looking at trying to make some forward progress. My word, there was a handful of contact there between Antonov and I think it was well, it wasn't Nuninghoff, it was Drovesikov that got themselves that handful of contact as well. So great scrapping here. These are positions that are just inside the points paying position. So this is P13, 14, 15, 16 and technically 17 now involved in this battle. So a big old train has developed here for the final points paying positions. We're still waiting for a handful of drivers to come down in for their pit stops. Oh, Antonov getting way out into the runoff area out the final corner. And now that will give the opportunity to Nürburgring down the inside at turn 1. Not able to complete the move here. So it seems like in this train, there's ample opportunity to try and get yourself alongside. Less of an opportunity, though, to actually try and complete the pass. That seems to be the story here in this little battle pack. Well, I say little, it's now a rather large battle pack with the amount of participants in it right now. That just goes to show the more you fight wheel to wheel at this circuit, the amount of the time that you lose is huge, and it just brings everyone else into things. But there's the battle for P8. Pliska versus Pfeiffer. Side by side in towards turn number 4. Pfeiffer on the inside. He has the momentum, he has the grip as well to be able to make that one work. Back to this P11 and back battle pack at the moment. It's seemingly like it's not going to give us too much of a rest here at the moment. We have just crossed over the halfway point of the race, by the way, so well, we got 19-ish minutes left to go here in this one of 40. Line astern for P11 and back coming through the final couple of corners. But I'd hazard a guess that we're going to see yet more action in this region of the standings. Antonov trying to nail the run coming out of turn 1 to be able to make another attempt happen into turn 2. And here it comes, the Russian to the outside of the German, up in towards the right, and again unsuccessful. And Nürburgring looking to try and join the party in this battle as well. Antonov is continuing to press the issue. He almost has those long side, now dives towards the inside. No, outside is the line to take, and oh, Nürburgring and Dravasikov make contact through turn 3, and Nürburgring somehow able to recover. I thought he was going to go around completely for sure, but I think he got a little bit of help from cars behind to get himself pointed back in the right direction. But it has caused a big old split in this pack now. Gassler and Kirill Antonov are able to get away a little bit at the very front of this pack and just get the gap between them. Someone says touring car moves in GT3 cars. Yeah, that is what we absolutely enjoy, I suppose, here in this series. It's very, very close racing indeed, and you know, you kind of have to force the issue a lot of times due to how close everyone is in terms of pace. You know, of course, you have to do everything by the book when it comes to the stewards, though, because remember, we do have stewards that review instants after these races. Nürburgring down the inside of Dravasikov. Dravasikov completely missed the line, but now he's going to be able to cut back off the corner and get the speed on the way in towards turn 3. So there we go. It's I was panicked a little bit there for the Swiss driver, but he was able to recover and get the speed off the corner. Looking to the inside, though, Moreno Sarika down the inside of David Nagy. Again, still pressing the issue, but the theme seems to be, yes, you can get alongside, you can even get absolutely level alongside coming into these corners, but you're still, as the overtaking car, not able to pass. Let's see how that factors in then for the rest of this event. Of course, we're paying more attention here towards the positions just outside of the top top 10, excuse me. So paying particular attention to these last points paying positions. The battles a little bit further up the field aren't really all that close, which is why we're not focusing on those guys right now. But of course, if they do get closer, by the time the end of this race arrives, then we will, of course, focus our attention more towards those front battles. Someone's out very wide. I think that was Suricha, as he now rejoins the circuit. He doesn't lose the position to Ottavani, who's sitting up behind him at the moment. But again, it was a big scare. Ottavani looking down the inside now. Not going to happen, but David Toth will get the opportunity coming through the corner to pull off the pass on Ottavani. So yeah, that's going straight from offense to defense and then ending up losing the position there for Ottavani. Side by side, further ahead of these guys, Gassner and Antonov, who are finally going once again, actually, side by side through turn 3, but this time around, Antonov was able to squeeze his way through. So what was that, 4-5 attempts the Audi had to make to try and get his way through, but finally he has, with 15 minutes left remaining in this race. I don't think for a second that Gassner will try to not come back at him here. He definitely will. These guys seem very, very close on pace indeed, and now Gassner will have the slipstream in the crucial areas, coming through out of turn 2 into turn, out of turn 1 into turn 2 and out of turn 2 into turn 3. Krill Antonov able to pull the gap though slightly up in towards turn 1, so safer than he otherwise would be, I'll have to argue. Meanwhile, looking further up the field as the battle for P3, Rietveld and Yayovsky, that gap has closed in a lot all of a sudden, and now Pinces also involved in this battle. So just as the positions just outside the top 10 calm down, positions very much well inside the top 10 start to heat up, as Pinces unsuccessful in trying to get past Fiduci there that time around. Will continue to follow very, very closely indeed there through turn 4 into turn 5. This little chicane here at the end of the second sector. And now the final couple of corners here, swing out wide onto that runoff area. The sim will allow you to do that without punishment. "13 minutes left remaining." You can see for Yayovsky, who went almost all the way to the pit wall here to just, well, not so much defend from the drivers behind because he wasn't really under threat. I think that was more of a notification to the cars behind, just to, yeah, don't try anything silly. Sometimes you can gain a lot from the body languages of certain cars, let me tell you that. But again, no one close enough though into turn 2 to be able to make any moves, looking to try and get the run. You can see a couple of these Audis especially, you know, just sliding around on the exit of the corner. Fiduci has been able to get a good run on Yayovsky though. Not happening though into turn 3. Plenty of time though still left in this race for things to change here for this battle. For the 4, 5, 6. Rietveld has been able to pull a very, very decent gap on the rest of these guys, by the way. He's a couple more seconds further down the road. So he's been able to get a very, very good gap here and able to make himself a little bit safer in terms of finishing in that 3rd spot. So podium seems very secure at the moment, with very healthy gaps between them. P4 very much up for debate with regards to these drivers, so let's hope they have a little bit of a scrap before the end of this event. That would be fantastic to see. Of course, you also have quite a train in the mid-pack, for example, here. From P10 and back now, as Antonov tries to pull a gap over Gassner, and now Nuninghoff is looking on the back of Gassner. You can see that up on screen now, and Gassner attempted to go defensive, but Nuninghoff, well, says, well, you go to the inside, I'll go even more to the inside, and I'll try to pull the pass off there. But is he successful? Not quite for the moment. Still not quite ahead on the way in towards turn 3. They're absolutely neck and neck now. Nürburgring still continuing to try and get it done on the inside now through turn 3, but usually on the outside you can carry momentum here, but no, Nürburgring has been able to get himself through here, and here comes Dravosikov now, looking to the outside through turn 4. Has to back out of it. You saw the brake lights there. He just completely and utterly backed out of it, and now Nagy might try to capitalize on this one. He's embroiled in this train right now. Dravosikov and Gassner going wheel to wheel. That's not usually a place where you see side by side. Through the second to last corner, through the final corner, you almost never see passes either. But the attempt still was made. Nagy getting very close to Dravosikov, but he's going to slip back in line and look to fight another day. Less than 10 minutes now left in this race. Still a lot of action to come here, everyone. Everyone closing up here in towards turn 2 this time around. So here comes Dravosikov around the outside of Gassner. Everyone fighting. Oh my word! Nagy went for the almighty send in towards turn 2. And he's been able to gain 2 positions, but I don't think anyone's too happy about that. I think that's Sarika, in fact, that went for the almighty send in the blue and white. Mercedes, and now everything's getting too close for comfort in amongst these drivers now. That was a big, ballsy move down the inside there from Sarika. Maybe he wasn't going to make the corner without contact, but of course it will be up to the stewards to review after this race if, in case any wrongdoing happened there. That was an almighty move, and maybe not the best judged. But then again, I am just a commentator. I am not a race steward. The decision is not with me. It has separated out this train, though. This is the battle for the final points-paying position. That's P15, David Toth and Alessandro Ottaviani even, fighting this one out. Toth looking for the good run off of turn 1. Looks like he's got it. Forces Ottaviani to go all the way to driver's right-hand side. Now Toth looking to the outside. There's another move there. That's a little bit sketchy, but now Toth will look to the outside here of Ottaviani. Now Witvot is looking to try and join the party here in this one as well. So, of course, stewards will be looking at everything after this race, including any blocking moves. Toth to the outside, though, of Ottaviani. Not able to get it done through turn 3. Now Witvot is trying to gain the position now. He'll have to do it around the long way at turn 4. Can he carry the speed? He'll be impeded somewhat there by Ottaviani, as he basically just surrendered the position there to David Toth, so he's able to squeeze his way through. So Toth now in the final points paying position for this race. Ottaviani and Witvot still within contention for this position. Don't count them out, especially when the slipstream is so powerful. Ottaviani, a slight look to the inside at turn 1. It's compromised his line a little bit, though. He's slow off the corner, and now Witvot might be able to get a run here, but he was similarly impeded by Ottaviani's bad line, so he's going to have to completely back out of things here. Ottaviani, again, too far back. He can look to the inside all he wants up into that corner, but if he's not within a couple of car lengths, then that move certainly isn't on, good sir. 6 minutes left to go. There's the battle for P12. That's getting pretty close, and Sarika's looking down the inside of Dravosikov now. Cracks open the gap on the inside, coming through the corner, but not able to slither his way through. couple of tenths of a second between these drivers. Nagi's knocking on the door as well with regards to this little duel. Time is of the essence now. We are getting in towards the final stages of this race. Coming up to 5 minutes to go. Of course, that is still a good handful of laps here at the Red Bull Ring. Remember, it is quite a short lap time, but it's still those laps go by so quickly, and all of a sudden checkered flags out, and you've missed your opportunity to be able to get yourself through if you're involved in one of these battles. Here comes the move. Sarika, another little look down the inside of Dravosikov there, and finally he gets it done. So that's the pass for Sarika as he heads his way into P12 now. Dravosikov, is there a move back here and towards turn 3? He's looking, and he's just about gonna get it to the inside there. Sarika will leave him the space and not block the lane. And now they're rubbing doors, trading paint on the way into turn 4. These guys so aggressive. Dravosikov looking for the cutback off the corner now. He will just about get to the inside now for turn 5, and he's got the position complete. But as he overcommitted to the corner, Sarika's going to try and come back at him now, coming up through turn 6, or the exit of turn 6. These guys can continue to be overlapping on the way in towards the second to last corner, but in the end, Dravosikov will be able to get that position back and secure it. But everyone's still close, and you can see there's a whole train of drivers behind that wouldn't mind picking up another couple of positions in case these guys get themselves involved in a bit of a crash, a bit of an incident. Dravosikov, Sarika, Nagi in that order for these three. Nagi's gonna have a look, so Sarika now down the inside again, late on the brakes through there. You can see the glowing brake discs, and now Sarika's been able to work his way through, but remember last lap, Dravosikov was able to make an instant response coming through the next couple of corners, and oh, hard into the wall. Dravosikov, he goes, who's there? Yeah, there is Dravosikov. Hard into the barriers and into the gravel and the tire barriers. He's going to drop way down the order, and he might not even be able to get himself back out there on circuit. I don't know what happened there on the way down in towards the turn 2, or rather turn 3. That was very confusing. Not sure if there was a little bit of contact or if there was a hardware failure for Dravosikov, but either way, he is now out of the race. That does change things just very slightly here in this mid-pack, not majorly. Of course, David Toth still in that final points-paying position, but that's not the way you would want any sort of battle to end whatsoever. A couple of drivers promoted up positions, of course, further down the order because of that incident. Now into the last couple of minutes of the first race here. By the way, there's a battle for P9. Norbert Leitner trying to defend from Antonov. Antonov is all over the back. In fact, all three of them are all over the back of each other as Nuninghoff looking to try and capitalize on these two scrapping ahead of him. We will get a bunch of action here towards the end of the race. Very much not at the front, though. Those guys have been very comfortable indeed. Pajic, Siggy, Rietveld, all have been able to extend the gap to their competitors. So those guys are going to get a pretty comfortable podium here today, pending they're able to remain on the racetrack. You never know, coming towards the end of these races. Leitner slow off of the penultimate corner, and now Antonov can dive down his inside. Here comes Nuninghoff. Oh, he had the run. He would have been able to find a line if he went straight to the inside, but unsuccessful in doing so. He gets the pass done on Leitner, and now he'll try and fight with Antonov up in towards turn number 1. Antonov will lean on him, pinching him to the inside of the apex. Nürburgring trying to get these 2 positions done in a matter of corners, and here comes Leitner coming all the way back. He's going to try and get past Antonov up in towards the braking zone here. He'll even look to the inside of Nürburgring just briefly, but his main battle is with that fellow Audi coming out of turn 2. Now on this run down towards turn 3. Of course, Nürburgring can dictate who gets the draft here when they're going side by side like that. He will pull Antonov through. Here's the move to the inside, though, from Leitner. There's a little bit of contact and moves Antonov well out of the way, coming through turn 3. So, again, lots of bits of contact here in battles up and down the order. Time has expired, by the way, which means this is confirmed the final lap. And, well, through the final corner, what an event it has been for Marko Pejic. He was clean sailing since the very start of the race. He comes across the line to win the first race of this second shootout here today. Kevin Siggy in second, and Rietveld comes across the line in third. So fantastic there. Rest of the drivers now heading their way across the line. Nürburgring is able to secure himself P9. He flashes the lights with a great couple of moves towards the end there. Leitner in 10th and Antonov in P11. Further down the order, let's see what's happening here. Side by side across the line between Rietveld and Warner, and well, Rietveld was able to get himself the position there, so P16, but unfortunately not a points paying position there for Rietveld. He's one off that one, so yeah, this is the top 15 that score points here today. But what a race here that we've had for the first round of the second shootout of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. The podium were comfortable. They ran their own race at the very front of the field here today. Everyone else, though, seemed to be bumper banging and door rubbing all the way up and down the grid here today, and in a display of, at times, some absolutely awesome racing, but some of it was a little bit less awesome with the contact that we saw at points during this one. We'll get the official finishing order here in just a couple of moments' time. Of course, the sim has to confirm that everyone has finished the race and come across the line before it can display us the results here for race number 1. Of course, some drivers might, still be on their laps at the moment. Not seeing anyone else still on their lap, though, so not entirely sure why it's giving us the. Well, it's not giving us the results here, but hopefully it will happen in just a couple of moments. Seems like Nürburgring certainly has a fan in the chat right now. Here's the official order, though, at the end of the first race. Marko Pejic wins from Kevin Siggy and Rietveld. That's the order of the podium. Jajowski in 4th, Pinces in 5th, Max Pfeiffer in 7th, Pils in 8th, Nürburgring in 9th, Leitner in 10th. And then those for the minor points paying positions: Sarica, Nagy, Ottaviani, Toth. That is going to be down to your top 15 drivers that scored points. People on the outside of the points paying positions: Rietveld, Vanna, Gassner, Rodriguez, Kazubon, Kunze, Stefanko, Stanger, Dinier, Neg, Grabowski, Javosikov, Rudinger further down the order as well, with a couple of other drivers that unfortunately did not finish this event. So, as we load into the next session, we load into the next server, we'll be heading to the Netherlands, everyone. We'll be heading to Zandvoort for this second race here today. And of course, in the background, all the points will be calculated to try and show us exactly where the standings lie here at the very end of race 1. I'll wait for that to come through. Unfortunately, I don't think the session has been switched over in a comfortable manner. So we'll have to go to a very, very quick break here, everyone, but we'll be back for race number 2 in just a couple of moments' time. We'll be back in a couple of moments once we get the server sorted. apologies about that slight little problem with the session not transferring over into the new race correctly for me. But we are back in the action then, and well, we are preparing for our second race here at Zandvoort. So the famous Dutch circuit here in and amongst the sand dunes on the coast, of course, and we can get ourselves some fantastic action, just like we saw at the Red Bull Ring. Of course, maybe a little bit less room for maneuver here at Zandvoort compared to what we saw at the Red Bull Ring, but should be an absolutely fantastic race, regardless of that fact. Of course, it's with the point situation being the way it is right now, I'm waiting to see if I can get that updated here. I'm just making 100% sure that those points can come through to me in a sensible fashion before I'm able to tell them to you. But for now, of course, we'll just have to wait, and we'll have to prepare for our second event at Zandvoort. And well, one event it was for, of course, Marko Pejic who was able to come away with the race win last time, and of course the likes of Kevin Siggy as well, who was able to finish on that second step of the podium. Those guys are in a particularly good spot with regards to points this at the end of the first race. Second race, though, things could very much potentially change here, but of course we'll have to keep an eye on things up and down the order to see where the storylines are. Of course, the drivers are locked in as far as their car choices are concerned, so they're not able to change cars midway through the event here. So therefore, it will still be the whole bunch of Mercedes and whole bunch of Audis for this one. Just a minute and a half of this practice session left to go before we can get ourselves transferred over into that qualifying session to try and set the grid for race number 2 of Shootout number 2 here in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship 2021. Remember, we are, well, our title sponsor, EnBW Mobility Plus. Thank you very much for coming back for yet another year to bring all the support to this series. And of course, we have you know, a lot of support from a lot of people here for these races and these broadcasts. So it's always great to see that kind of support. And well, the most important support of all of them is from you guys, just viewing and chatting. It really does make things amazing for us here. Ten seconds left in practice then. Not a lot of time to get yourself refreshed with regards to the circuit. Of course, these drivers will put in ample practice, you know, especially with their leaderboards earlier on in the week, and of course preparing for today's races. But of course, you do want to get that little warm-up in to be able to, you know, refresh your memory, get yourself set for the event to come. Time has expired now. We'll very shortly be transferring over into that qualifying session. Here we go then. 10 minutes of qualifying at Zandvoort has now started. We, as always, get this huge gaggle of cars coming off of pit lane at the exact same time. Of course, open qualifying here, so you know, there's opportunity for drivers to impede each other on the laps. Of course, that's not allowed as far as the rulebook is concerned, but it's always a worry that you have to be concerned about. You have to find yourself the track position and maybe the helpful bit of draft as well to be able to get your fastest lap times here in qualifying. Absolutely fantastic circuit, if you ask me. Of course, hasn't been seen in F1 for a while, and of course, you know, when it comes to you know, the new layouts of the circuit, well, that is still yet to come into play for a lot of series that go here on a regular basis, because of course they haven't been able to race because of the current world situation. So we haven't really seen that, of course, new banked final turn in effect as the new layouts for Zandvoort. Of course, we will not be seeing it here because this is a little bit of an older version of Zandvoort compared to what is available in the real world, shall we say. But the front couple of drivers now coming across the line to start their flying laps. Of course, longer lap time here at Zandvoort compared to the Red Bull Ring, so less opportunities for you to get yourself a good time here in quali. We'll have to see how the balance of performance affects this one as well, because we saw a lot of Mercedes towards the top of the order as far as that last event at the Red Bull Ring was concerned. I wonder if we'll get to see either the same or the opposite here today. Remember, we do have that one Bentley in the field, though, Jan Stanger, who's committed to the Bentley. Everyone else has either gone for a Mercedes or an Audi. So, you know, props to Stanger for committing to what the drivers, I guess, feel like is the more inferior car. As is the current balance performance for the 3 circuits that we've chosen to go to here today. Here, of course, is Nico Nürburgring. Careful coming through the middle sector, and there we go. You can see he went over the track limits a little bit. That caused his lap to become invalid, so then he just decides to take the toe back to pit lane and get himself another out lap started. Not seeing any times come through just yet. These drivers are working their way towards the final sector here on most of their flying laps, so we'll get those in just a couple of moments. And in fact now, as Mariano Surica will get himself provisional pole position here, Balduf, and then Yayovsky going faster. So it's that provisional pole position sign is a bit like a hot potato at the moment as the drivers come across the line to complete their first flying lap of the qualifying session here. Lap time's on the order of about 8 seconds longer than the Red Bull Ring for the moment. Jeffrey Rietveld up into provisional pole position here by 26 thousandths of a second over Marko Pejic. So that was your race winner. In the previous race, he gets demoted down to 2nd place to start for this one. Of course, Rietveld had a little bit more action to see in the previous events than both Siggy and Pejic, who finished ahead of him. He was embroiled in that very early race sort of P3 fight that he was just simply able to pull away from and got himself a healthy gap over the rest of the field. He's going to abort that lap and take the toe back to pit lane, so he won't be able to improve in the next couple of moments. There is Mark Gassner, green through sector 1, green through sector 2, so on all counts an improvement for Mark Gassner at the moment. It's all about this final sector now as he heads his way out of the Hugenholzbocht, as or the Audi S, of course, is another name for that. Well, not rather, the Audi S is the name for that turn 13. Hugenholzbocht, of course, is turn 4. So that's the corner names getting confused in my head there. But Gassner, purple through sector 3, but not good enough to be able to improve on a P4 at the moment. So he's kind of well, he knows where to improve. Sector 1 and 2 is going to be where he's losing all the time there. David Nagy up into P7. A couple of other drivers promoting themselves quite far up the order. Ilya Jovosikov into P12 now. Decent lap time for that particular driver. We have 3 drivers yet to set themselves a lap time. Mihai Neg, we got Nico Nürburgring, who has yet to set a lap time, and David Toth, who has not set a lap time either. So there is Nico Nürburgring. As the German heads his way through the Audi S, and there's a bit of oversteer coming off the corner, struggling to keep control of the car as he heads now into the into turn 14 and then turn 15 as the final corner at this circuit. Coming up towards the start-finish line, what sort of lap time is it going to be for Nico Nürburgring? Not great. Not great, all things considered. P19 for Nico Nürburgring at the moment here in qualifying. There's Kevin Siggy on outlap at the moment, so not expecting a time coming through from him in just a couple of moments. Mark Gassner will sort of, again, he's not on a lap either. He's just warming up his tyres to be able to go chasing on this particular lap. There's Marko Pejic though, winner at the Red Bull Ring, looking to become front row starter here at Zandvoort, but of course he will be desperately searching to try and get up onto that pole position, just so he can have the opportunity to try and run away, just like he did at the Red Bull Ring. Let's see what the first sector time is, though, as he is coming towards the end of that in a few moments. Into Renault Boch, and then turn 11, which is a Vodafone Boch, and they like their sponsored corners, or rather this is Renault Boch here, and then into Vodafone. Turn 11. Pejic went green in sector 1, not purple though. Rietveld was still able to best him through that sector. 2.5 minutes left to qualifying. There's a bit of a better situation there for Pejic, so he went purple by a half a tenth in that second sector, and now he needs to nail this third sector to be able to do anything about Rietveld's current provisional pole position time. Pejic though, through the final corner then, of course the start-finish line is at the very front of the grid spot on this circuit, so let's see what the situation is there for Pejic. It's purple again through sector 3, but it just wasn't quite enough to be able to get himself ahead of Rietveld at the end there. It was a tenth of a second between himself and the Dutch driver. So what a surprise though. Dutch driver and a Dutch circuit has got himself provisional pole position here at the moment. Color me surprised. But Rietveld will be using that home advantage as much as possible here. Gassner, oh my words, that time, it is so close to Rietveld. It's 0.003 of a second between P1 and P2 here in qualifying at the moment, and Rietveld's just gone even faster, very slightly, through sector 1. So this is the man to beat here at this circuit, all things considered. Everyone else, well, apart from Gassner, seemingly unable to match his pace for the moment in qualifying. So maybe we'll get to see the similar sort of situation to what we saw in race 1, where the front couple of drivers were just able to run away from the rest of the field. Sorry, I had a little bit of a chuckle because I've seen a comment in the chat saying all things bocht. Yes, it does seem to be the. I mean, it's the word for corner in Dutch, isn't it? So it's they just name everything a certain thing and then just say corner at the end. So it's you know, that's just the situation there. Rietveld though, is this going to be an improvement on his pole position time, or well, you know, he's going to dive down towards pit lane because the session was just about to end. So there's the grid for race 2 here of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship 2021 shootout number 2. Rietveld on pole position, the Dutch driver doing very well at his home circuit. Mark Gassner on the front row as well. Marko Pejic, your race winner from race 1, starts in P3. Kevin Siggy, P2 in race 1, starts in 4th. Nico Nürburgring able to recover at the end of qualifying, getting himself up into P5, and then P6 goes to Adam Pinces. Ilhan Jojowski P7, Krippner 8th, Isaac Price 9th, David Nagy in 10th, and you can see the rest of the runners cycling through your field at the moment. I'm trying to see if anyone's like very obviously out of position here at the moment. I'm not seeing it. Maybe Leitner a little bit further down the orders, perhaps not where he expected to be coming into this one, but into the 5-minute warm-up session then. Time for the drivers to reflect on that qualifying and get themselves inside the right headspace for this race to come. I still haven't got updated points, by the way. I'm trying to work on it, but it seems like the spreadsheet that I'm seeing is not being updated at the moment. In fact, it is actively being updated. So we will get the points situation in just a couple of moments' time, everyone. Don't worry about it. It's being worked on. Damien de Grasse says, they went so fast in the qualifier that I was happy with my 36.5 until I wasn't. Yeah, that's the situation sometimes when it comes to these top drivers. You know, if you're an average or even worse driver like myself, you put in an amazing lap time and you think, oh my god, that's brilliant. No one's going to go faster than that. And then you see some pro driver or some esports driver go about 2.5 seconds faster, and you're thinking, what is my life? So yeah, I definitely empathize with the with the being happy with a lap time and then seeing what everyone else has done. Yeah, that's certainly something that I've experienced in my time in sim racing. And of course, you know, in a championship like this where everyone is so close, you know, those single hundredths of a second matter, because a couple of hundredths of a second might mean the difference between starting first or starting fifth, you know, and that might mean all the difference when it comes to the championship points at the end of things. So yeah, it's everything's always on a knife edge, and of course once we get to the actual main season, things will be even closer, because we'll have the top 14 drivers from today. I'll have the top 14 drivers that we already decided from last week, all competing together, which promotes some incredible action, just like we saw last year. The championship in particular last year was great. Of course, we didn't get to do as many live events and lands as we had planned due to the world situation right now. But hopefully, maybe at least towards the end of this year, but we might be able to return to those live in-person venues and such. So. Yeah, we will have to watch this space with regards to that, because I always enjoy those. It's absolutely brilliant. I haven't done any with RaceRoom at the moment. I've done some with other sims, but yeah, those live events are absolutely amazing. But we'll have to continue with online for now, because of course, you know, we have to with the laws at the moment. One minute 40 seconds before we get the gridding procedure underway here for race number 2. Remember, we have another 40-minute race, exactly like we had at the Red Bull Ring. One scheduled stop somewhere in the middle of the race. And then for the final race of today, we'll be heading to the Nürburgring. What a fitting place to end a shootout event than at the home of German motorsports, so to speak. Of course, it's, you know, this is a very, very German championship on the real world side of things, and of course, you know, with the participants in Shootout 1 especially, a lot of the Germans taking part in that as well. So it really has captured the imagination of the of that particular country. But I'm just trying to see if I can get myself the points order as it is right now. It's been updated, but it hasn't been sorted just yet. So there we go. It has been sorted now. So currently the drivers inside of the top 14 spots. So these are the qualification spots into the main season as a permanent driver. Marco Pejic, Jeffrey Rietveld, Kevin Siggy, Ilhan Yajovski, Matt Gassner, Adam Pinces, Nico Nuninghoff, Gianmarco Vidusi, Max Pfeiffer, Peter Piliska, David Nagy, Leonard Klippener, Isaac Price, and Norbert Leitner. Those are the drivers that have been able to at least get into the top 14 after this first event. And of course, you have to consider the shootouts also affecting things as well. So that's the situation. And yeah, a lot of those drivers. So the drivers that are just about missing out on the top 14 right now are Krill Antonov, Ottaviani, Ciara, Sarica, Balduf, Rudinger are actually missing out on the top 14 at the moment as well, because, you know, he had his problems in that first race. David Toth missing out as well at the moment. So those are all the drivers that have scored points, but of course you have a host of drivers that have not scored any points in the course of this event as well. So hopefully their luck turns for this second and third race. The gridding procedure then for race number 2 of shootout number 2 of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship has now begun. Drivers getting themselves primed, ready and waiting to go racing at the home of Dutch motorsports here at Zandvoort. Of course, it is a relatively decent run here down in towards turn number 1, so get yourself a good start, get yourself the momentum, and potentially you might be able to make something happen in towards that first turn. But things get very congested through that first sector very quickly, so expect to see a lot of, well, cars being shoved wide and out into the grass. But here we go then. Race number 2 of shootout number 2 is just about to start. And we're off and away here at Zandvoort. Rietveld getting away well from pole position. Gassner didn't have the best of starts either. He's fighting with Kevin Siggy for P2. Down in towards turn number 1. Siggy just falling behind there. Was trying to capitalize on Gassner's poor start, but does not get the pass done. Coming through the first couple of corners, and now you see the action further back as well. You can see how congested it gets with that track being so narrow here. Isaac Price trying to go side by side with Leonard Klippner through there, and now he's getting pressured by Baldoff behind. So Baldoff looking to try and move positions here early on. Not as much contact through the first couple of corners as I was expecting. Everyone pretty respectful and getting themselves through there relatively unscathed from the very front of the field on back. So great job from everyone involved for not having no incidents there coming through the first sector. That is a great display of racecraft from everyone involved to be able to get that one done. Look at this though, Isaac Price all over the back of this battle ahead of him. This involving Ihania Jovski. You also have Leonard Klippner involved in this as well. A little bit further down the road, and there he is. There's a decent amount of separation starting to happen already ahead of these guys as well. Meanwhile, further back through the order, Baldoff had a bit of a deviated line coming through the Audi S. Now, through the exit of that complex, side by side for very minor positions right at the very back of the field there. But nothing significant at the very, very front of this pack. Coming out of the final corner now to complete lap number 1 here of race 2 at Zandvoort. Is there going to be any moves coming down in towards turn number 1? You can see a huge amount of traffic heading its way towards the pit walls, trying to defend from moves. Isaac Price trying to fight with Baldoff now going through turn 1. Baldoff has the speed coming off the corner, but he has no advantage just yet. He goes late on the brakes into the next, and now he's ahead. So great pass there from Baldoff. Isaac Price losing the position there. Nagi's involved in this battle as well. Remember, these are positions just outside of the top 10 that we're looking at the moment. As they head their way through the downhill right-hander of Schivlak. Fantastic corner, that one. Is you're on the limit of grip. The car's getting pretty light as well as you're having to go across the transition in terms of the gradient over the top of the hill. You have to hope and pray the car will stick through there, especially if the car's, that you're driving doesn't have a lot of downforce. It's you have to be very, very careful. But of course, if you do have a lot of downforce, then it's still a brilliant corner where you can really feel the raw performance of the cars. Not as much active door-to-door fighting in the early stages here at race 2 compared to what we had at race 1. Of course, there's less of an opportunity to get those very obvious overtaking moves done here at Zandvoort, but there is still a big opportunity on the way out of the final turn and down in towards the first turn. Of course, turn number 1, very on camber, as you can see from that shot right there, so you can carry a lot more speed through there than on first appearance. So you can really dive it in. You can even try and make moves around the outside there and carry the momentum with the banking around the outside. So that's another little thing that might influence certain battles coming into that. Dravosikov has had a big off there coming into the first sector. So they're going to be cycled back now into P30. That is awful. I didn't quite see what happened there. Maybe a little bit of contact, maybe a solo car incident. We're not going to know because unfortunately we're not able to get replays here in this one. There's the train for P2 up on screen. Rietveld is basically pulling everyone to school at the moment. He's got himself a 1.7 second advantage ahead of everyone else at the very front there, and continuing to extend it. So he seems like to be a bit of a Zandvoort specialist, but like I said, he's Dutch. So I think that's to be expected, that he will be very good at this circuit here today. Still close action though for P2. Siggy trying to get the run through the final couple of quarters here to try and pull off a pass on Mark Gassner. Let's see if he's got the speed coming out of the final corner to be able to make that happen. Forcing Gassner to go defensive to the inside, but Siggy doesn't commit to any move at all. So just going to stay in line. We're in the very early stages of this race, so not really much of a point of trying to dive it in at every single opportunity and try and make passes, because there's still ample opportunity left. But of course, if you are feeling like you're being held up, then maybe that will give you a little bit more encouragement to try and get yourself through in this situation. Damian's Grass saying we're going to see a little bit of spice soon. And yeah, I kind of get that feeling as well. Maybe they're bottling it up at this very early stage to have a little bit of fun a little bit later on. 6 minutes gone, 34 left to go here in this one. Still, the order at the very front has kind of remained as it was at the initial portions of this race. You got Nico Nuninhoff here, who is trying to lock onto the back of the car ahead of him. That is Baku Pejic, who is your race winner at the Red Bull Ring as race number 1. So he's not doing as well here at Zandvoort, but still P1. And then if he comes across line P4 here today, that will basically be him sealed into the permanent driver slots for next season. Or for the coming season, I should say. Not too long now, of course. Something about just watching this entire train head its way through, which is quite satisfying at the moment. It's great to see everyone so close together and so close in terms of pace. That just goes to show how competitive the very top of the skill level here on RaceRoom is. It's brilliant to see. Got to be very careful coming through Skivlak. If you do push wide coming through there, then there's not a lot of hope for you with regards to not hitting a wall or getting out into the gravel. Oh my god, Jeffrey Rietveld. I haven't seen that name in a very long time. Very happy to see him. Yes. And Zandvoort seems very happy to see him as well, or he's very happy to see Zandvoort, because he is, yeah, he's got 2.3 seconds over the rest of the field now. So as long as he's able to get the checkered flag, I think we already have our race winner, unless something untoward happens to him. And I promise, touch wood, I'm not giving him the curse of the commentator at the moment. I do have the slight habit of doing that, by the way, but hopefully not in this situation. Here comes maybe an attempted move by Marko Pejic around the outside, long way around at turn 1. Can be possible with the help of the banking, but not going to be able to get in there this time. Despite everyone being in this close train, that's the first little moment of side-by-side that we've had for the opening stages of this race. Of course, we had a little bit of fighting further back in the order for P20 and back, but nothing at the very front. So let's have a look to see what the point situation is. Because remember, someone like Kirill Antonov, there he is in the... I'll pull the driver infos up so you can see. There he is. He's in the basically what we call the sort of near the bubble spot right now. He's in P15 in the standings. So he's just outside of those top 14 spots, and now he's currently residing in 17th. So right now, Antonov is not making any further progress whatsoever to be able to bring himself back into that top 14. So he needs to at least get himself inside the top 15 to be able to score points here today. We're seeing a couple of drivers decide to end their way in. That was one driver, I didn't quite catch the Nagy. Yeah, David Nagy has decided to come in here. That was on the 30 minutes to go mark, basically. So that was very, very close for Nagy with regards to the with the pit stop. But there we go. He is safe down on towards pit lane. He is the only driver to decide to go for that early of a stop, I believe. So just the lone car down on towards pit lane. I think we'll see the rest of the early stoppers at the very end of this lap, and then of course we'll see everyone else come in when they decide to do so over the next the next 10 minutes or so. There's the man that's currently leading the P2 train at the moment, as he's starting to gap Siggy here a little bit. Siggy's definitely not as close as he was just a couple of laps ago when he had that, when he made that first very, very big attempt towards turn number 1. But since then, he's really, really fallen off the back here. He has to be careful about the quickly closing in Marko Pejic and Nuninghoff as well. But here comes the rest of the early stoppers then. Lots of visitors on towards pit lane. Marko Pejic, the top position of them. Siggy decided to stay out. Rietveld in the race lead decided to stay out as well. So, but a lot of drivers now coming in for their stops. Nuninghoff is also in as well. So pit lane is a very, very busy place at the moment as drivers decide that now is the best time that they want to come down in and get their service done. We'll have to see the battles coming off of pit lane there. I saw a brief bit of side-by-side, but I believe that was Kripner and Pinces that basically went through each other coming off of pit lane there, which is very much not ideal. Meanwhile, of the cars that stayed out here, there's a close battle. Oh, Norbert Leitner. Norbert Leitner has gotten himself, and Kirill Antonov as well. Both gotten themselves drive-through penalties for speeding in the pit lane. There's multiple drivers that do this every single race, it feels like here in this championship. That you gotta get that car slowed down for the pit lane speed limit. Otherwise, of course, you will have to serve that drive-through penalty. And if you're a driver like Antonov, for example, then you simply cannot afford to get yourself a slowdown penalty at this point because you're already outside the points. You're looking to try and get yourself 1, 2, 3 points, maybe to keep yourself within the top, or at least get yourself within the top 14 of the point standings. But now you're basically confirmed scoring 0 points for this particular event with a drive-through penalty. So, a couple more drivers deciding to head their way in. There's Leon Rudinger. So Rudinger has come down in. Pejic has also, Jajowski, excuse me, has also decided to come down in. Pejic as well. So that's that confirmed as well. So again, pit lane, a very, very busy place. So where is, there's Nico Nuninghoff. Of course, he has come down on towards pit lane. Gassner was one of the top drivers to do so. Same with Pejic as well. Pejic just about comes out behind Gassner, so Gassner's able to score himself. Oh, Rudinger. Rudiger's got himself, and Sricha. Yeah, like there's four drivers that have abused the pit lane speed limit in this race so far. So Rudinger has to come down in. Sricha has to come down in to get themselves the penalty served. What is up? Someone says, what is up with Dravosikov? Dravosikov, unfortunately, I think, had an incident earlier on in the event and is now out of the race. So I don't think Dravosikov will make an appearance before the end of this event now. So he's one of two retirements, I believe. There's Kirill Antonov out there after having served his drive-through penalty, I believe. So continuing on out there. This must be the tire spinning thing. There's no way they're all missing the limiters as they progress. I'm not too up to date with regards to the correct strategy coming off of pit lane there. There are some instances where you don't even where you don't even in some sims where you don't even use the pit limiter and just try and creep a couple kilometers an hour over to be able to, because it doesn't catch you immediately. But with this, again, another person. Oh, Rietveld! That's your pole position. That's your race leader. Rietveld has been given a drive-through penalty for speeding. 5th driver to do so in this race. David Toff, 6th driver to get themselves a drive-through. Siggy, 7th driver. Neg, 8th driver to get a drive-through. Who hasn't got a drive-through at the moment is the question that you have to be asking. Lots of drivers falling foul of the pit lane speed limit. So how does this affect everything with regards to the order now? Whole bunch of drivers getting themselves penalties on pit lane. There's Jeffrey Rietveld. He's going to have to come down in. Drama. Very heavy drama here in race 2 of Shootout 2. The automatic system punishing lots of drivers for pit lane speed limit infractions. Rietveld is down in P5 at the moment. That's because a couple of drivers haven't come down in towards the pit lane just yet. He's still effective race lead, but once he comes down in and serves that drive-through, he will not be the effective race lead anymore. Will he serve it on this lap? He doesn't. So decides to stay out. Of course, does give you ample opportunity for you to serve your drive-through penalty here. Yet more visitors on towards pit lane. Let's hope none of them get added to that humongous list of drivers that have gotten penalties, although I know the danger in saying that. There's Gianmarco Fiduci coming out just behind a bit of a train of traffic. It's the battle for P4 as it stands out there. Might be a battle for much, much more once Rietveld comes down in to serve his drive-through penalty. Here's the gap between Marko Pejic and Nico Nuningov, which is the battle that you're seeing up on the screen right now. Nuningov following very, very closely there through Shivlak, and now in towards the middle sector through turn 9. These are very, very inviting and wide entries to these corners, so don't be surprised about drivers going for big, big lunges into these, but haven't seen too much of that though over the course of this event. Leon Rudinger has come down on towards pit lane there, so another stop. So maybe that's the drive-through penalty there for Rudinger. There's Jeffrey Rietveld. He's going to head his way out of the final corner. Does he decide to dive in and serve penalty now? No, decides to stay out just one more lap. Of course, Gassner, he doesn't have a penalty, so he doesn't have to come in again. Thibaut Casabon is in. He was running around in the race lead for a bit, but now taking his scheduled stop, coming down in, getting that done, and will hopefully be out in quite short order. This has shaken the order quite a bit. So right now, after that stop, Thibaut Casabon is in 15th place. So he's the last point scorer here. Jonas Vanner up into P14. There's Elisa Digne in 13th, Pilska in 12th. So a couple of drivers getting a handful of points, whereas they otherwise wouldn't, with all of the with all of the penalties that have been handed down from on high from the automated system on pit lane. King Carrot saying, "Cue up the curb your enthusiasm tune." Yeah, I think we need that sort of backing music for this one. I think to just describe what has gone on in this race. Marco Pejic still trying to defend from Nürburgring at the moment. He's doing a pretty good job at it. Let's be honest here. And of course, Nürburgring hasn't really had the biggest of opportunities to try and head his way by. So he's gonna have to. Okay, there's Rietveld. So Rietveld has come down in and served his slowdown penalty. There he is. Coming off of pit lane, surrenders the race lead, and how far back is he going to fall? He's going to come out, oh, just ahead of Digne. My words, that was a pit exit and a half there. That was so close to being an instant coming into that turn one there, but Rietveld is just about squeezes ahead of Elisa Digne. Drive-through penalty for David Toth, by the way, so that's another one to add to the list. My words. So as a result of that now, there's Mark Gassner. He leads the way now after Rietveld had to come down in to serve the drive-through penalty for speeding on the pit lane, and it was an unforced error as well. It has to be said, he wasn't being pressured, he was pulling the gap all day at the very front. He didn't need to rush the pit stop, but apparently he has, and has now been forced way further down the order than perhaps he would have expected at this point in the race. We're over, well, we're just under halfway to go now. 18 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock here at Zandvoort. Of course, you know, once this is done, we still have another race to go. We have that third race at the Nürburgring to finish off today, and for those drivers that are going to be close, inside, just inside, just outside that top 14, that's where they're going to have to make up the difference. Ottaviani looking to drive his right-hand side, coming down the pit straight, gets past Adam Pinces. That was a very, very simple move there from Ottaviani to be able to make that happen. So I get the feeling Pinces also lifted out, I think, somewhat as well, to just let that Mercedes by. He will lock onto the back bumper coming through the first sector though, so not giving Ottaviani all of the luxuries ever. Elisa Digne trying to defend from Jonas Vanner as Vanner tries to carry the speed through Skivlek, and let's see if they're going to be able to make anything happen through Marlborough. No, that's turn number 9. Now turn number 10 down the inside of Renault as Vanner tries to wrestle the position away from Digne. They will continue the side-by-side battle now through turn 11. My word, there's a bit of contact. They're leaning on each other through the exit of the corner. Now Casubon going to look to get himself involved on the run down towards the Audi S now. Casubon to the inside of Vanner. Can he get any position here? No, he can't. They'll all be nose to tail through the slow speed corners, but still nothing doing as far as that is concerned. But a brief moment of some fantastic battling there. Digne able to keep himself ahead by the skin of his teeth at the moment. He might have to defend hard once again here coming in towards turn 1. There's a look from Vanner to try and scare Digne out of line, pushing a little bit wide through turn 1. Nothing doing though once again as they head their way through the first sector through turn 4. Hugenholtz. Oh my word, no! Vanner big spin and big impact with the inside Armco barrier out of turn 4. That's not how you want to have your race, well, end for all intents and purposes with Vanna. He's still out there, but he's got some pretty heavy damage on the front end of that Mercedes. Just too much power coming out of turn 4. Maybe getting onto the grass a little bit as well. Completely unsettled the car, and it was a big impact with the barrier on the inside there. So Jonas Vanna, where is he in terms of points right now? He was really desperate for them, I get the feeling. Yeah, he was down in P23 in points, and that was you know, a decent position for him to be in until that incident. You know, it's unfortunate, but he's kind of lost a lot of points here, and that might mean that his chances of getting himself a permanent driver slot into next season is not going to happen, or at least is very unlikely to happen. Here comes the battle then for P numbers 10. Pincez trying to defend from Pilsker, as Pilsker looks down the inside, is able to not quite get the position as, well, he was on the outside there, excuse me. Pincez was the one that trying to, or rather that was, yeah, it's Pilsker, Pincez, Rietveld also involved in this. Rietveld was able to squeeze his way through. Got a little bit confused there, but now Pincez and Pilsker still very close indeed. Identity focus driver, please. I am working on it. But yeah, for the moment, we've seen some great action here today. And maybe not as much in this race, but they're still attempting it. Pincez now having to defend from Pilsker, coming in towards the middle sector now. Pincez in the Audi, Pilsker in the Mercedes. Pilsker has the inside through the right, but he'll become the outside for the next corner now. He has to carry the speed around the outside to be able to get the run in towards the Audi S. There's a little bit of banging between them, little bit of contact. There's still an overlap here on the way into Audi S. And now Pilsker has gotten himself down the inside. Is there a move back there from Pincez? I don't think there is. He attempted to try and find a line back, but no opportunity to try and get himself back alongside and back through. There's the ident of the focus driver, by the way. Got that one fixed up for you. Not entirely used to how the broadcast software works here on RaceRoom. It's I've only done a couple of races with it, but there we go. Ottaviani wide through turn number 1. Fiduci can come at him now, coming up towards turn 2, turn 3, but he has to fall back in line because, well, this sequence of corners really doesn't promote all that much overtaking and side-by-side action. There's, you know, so narrow in terms of the circuit coming through there. Now Ottaviani continuing to lead this little trio around. This is the battle for P8, as you can now quite helpfully see on the left-hand side. Jeffrey Rietveld is closing in on this, and now he's going to try and pull out the passes. This is the, remember, the recovering pole position sitter and early race leader. He got himself a drive-through penalty due to speeding on the pit lane like about 7 other drivers in this race. And now he's on a recovery drive, trying to get his way back through the field. He's making some very good progress, by the way. P8 is definitely within the realms of possibility here for Rietveld, maybe even a little bit further up the order as well. So for the Dutch driver, it's not a whole big loss here today. It's a loss in terms of the race win that he was looking so certainly to get, but a solid finish in the points will continue to help his current tally in the standings coming towards the end of the day. Not going to commit to any move down the inside of turn 1, just going to wait and bide his time for now. He still has about 11.5 minutes to be able to get as far up the field as possible. There's this battle for P6 between David Nagy and Isaac Price, as Price almost gives a shot to the back bumper of Nagy coming through the right. So you can see how aggressive Price is getting at the moment and wanting to work his way up through the field. He's currently P13 in terms of points, so he'll want a good handful more by the time this race is done to make sure he's secured inside of the... Oh, another little bit of contact coming through the Audi S there. Of course, these cars in RaceRoom are a little bit more, quite resilient to contact, all things considered. So a little bit of bumper banging is seemingly fair between all involved. See this battle for P7, and then you have the big old train for P8 further down the road that you saw coming out of the final corner on that big long shot down the pit straight. You can see them in the background. Oh, there's side by side there as well. Ottaviani and Pilska were having a little bit of a duel through the first corner there, and well, oh my words, Pilska got a big slide on the way in towards turn 4. Able to hold it together though. You don't want to be doing that too much though, especially in the closing stages of this race. It does cause the tyres to go away a little bit faster than it otherwise would. And there's a mistake from Ottaviani. That means that Kazupon can have an opportunity and a look to try and get his way through. Coming through the middle sector now, not going to be successful just yet. There's still an opportunity on the inside though for that Audi to be able to squeeze his way through. There's another slide there from Ottaviani. That Mercedes is not looking very healthy indeed in terms of keeping the tyres in good condition. So it's basically 2 slides, 2 losses of position from Ottaviani. Those tyres are cooked, it seems. Decent train though for P15 and back. This is the last points paying position. What happened to Rietveld? He got himself a drive-through penalty for speeding on the pit lane. That's what happened to Rietveld. So he's slowly but surely trying to recover his way back through the field. You got this fantastic train for P15. Like I said, last points paying position could be crucial. But of course we won't know for sure until the very final race of today. Couple of little looks, couple of defensive moves going on in this train. Max Pfeiffer was one of those that went way out of line coming in towards turn 1. There's the battle for P6. Nagy versus Isaac Price. And well, Price hasn't really been afraid of showing the bumper so far this race, so that can definitely continue on into the final moments of this race. We're not quite there yet though. We've still got about 7.5 minutes, so decent amount of laps to go. Isaac Price will be able to keep that in mind when it comes to negotiating this battle. Look at this pack though. This is just outside the points paying positions, in fact, or rather this is the train for that P15. Everyone getting themselves way fanned out coming through the first sector, and the battles will continue as Jan Stanger has to try and defend from Ciara. Ciara's been able to make his way to the inside of the Audi S there, coming off the corner, but won't have any momentum. By the way, Jan Stanger, this car we're focusing right now, he's the only car that is not a Mercedes or an Audi in this entire field. We have no Porsches, we have no Corvettes. So the only GT3s that we have here are the Mercedes and the Audis. For all intents and purposes, of course, we have that single Bentley. Look at this side-by-side action though. Pinces and Pfeiffer through turn 1. Pfeiffer on the inside, able to carry a whole bunch of momentum to be able to continue this battle up and towards turn 3 now. Everything gets a very bit tight coming through here. Pfeiffer's ahead for turn 4, and now Stanger's looking to the inside. He's looking to show the Audis who's boss in that Bentley, the only driver to commit to something different in this event, and he's been able to get the position there. Stanger up into P16. Meanwhile, there's the battle for P6 going on right now. It started. Defensive line being taken through these corners by Nagy. Price will have the speed off the corner thanks to the wider line, or the wider entry. And now we can use that slipstream all the way in towards the Audi S. What's the decision from Isaac Price? Nagy's playing this one very defensively. He went slightly to the inside there for the start of the Audi S, able to cover off the move. Penultimate corner now coming up through the final corner now. Nagy trying to hold on to this 6th place from Price, but Price has been looking oh so aggressive, and again looks to the inside here, commits to the inside to make it happen, and Price breezes through. That's a forceful move, but it's a strong move, and it's a brilliant move from Price to be able to get through up into P6. His job's not done though. Nagy's continuing to look all over the back into turn 4, but again finds no success on the attempt to go back past. The battle between Fiduci and Rietveld right behind this, by the way, as Rietveld trying to recover after that drive-through penalty for speeding on the pit lane. Trying to gain as many points as possible, trying to climb back through this field. Fiduci is going to try and defend things into the middle sector here. Rietveld continues to stay behind for now, but only about 4 minutes left in this race. Not a lot of time left remaining in this one to be able to make those last-minute passes happen. Battle for the race lead is closing in, by the way. I've been keeping an eye on the very top of the timing tower there. And the gap now, 6.5 tenths of a second between Gassner and Pejic. And Pejic is closing in at a rate of knots at the moment. What's happened to Gassner? He's so slow at this point. I mean, able to recover somewhat coming up through the exit of turn 1 there. But watch that space for the race lead here as that gap fluctuates by significant margins in and out. Lots of places to look at here for potential battles. You have, of course, the P8 battle that we're looking at, which is Rietveld and Fiduci, so Rietveld trying to get past Fiduci. We have the battle for the race lead closing in as well, which is what I didn't expect coming towards the end of this one. We also have battle for P2 between 3 drivers, Nuninghoff, Krippner, and Jajowski, all within kind of the same piece of real estate as each other. And then you have further battles even further down the standings as well. So lots of places to look at. To try and figure out what's going to happen at the very end of this race. By the way, that is the gap for the race lead now. It's not looking all that much, is it? Down towards under half a second between Mark Gassner and Marco Pejic. Pejic looking for the 2nd race win here today to continue on towards that clean sweep. Coming across the line with 2 minutes left remaining here. And all of a sudden, battle for the race lead is very much on between these two. Pejic getting a little bit squirrely coming through turn 1. Able to recover though and continue to lock onto the back of Gassner. Has Gassner basically cooked his tires at this point? That's the question. Has he taken a little bit too much out of them in the early stages of the race so that these final laps are absolutely horrible? And Pejic has been a little bit kinder. We'll just have to wait and see if Gassner can hold on to this race lead, because Pejic is, well, he's certainly one to go for moves wherever they might appear, and if there's an opportunity, he will stick his nose in to try and get that pass done. That is without a doubt. continuing to eat away at the tenths, hundredths of a second coming towards the end of this event. So this is the second to last lap. I think we'll get the last, well, start of the last lap on the next lap. So that's how the time works out right now when we have a battle for the race lead then between Mark Gassner and Marko Pejic. Let's see who comes out on top in this one as they head their way through those final couple of corners. This is the last lap now, and you can see how wide and how hard they're pushing here to try and hold on to position, especially for Mark Gassner. Pejic looking to the inside through turn one. It's just a look though, no sting in the move. Falls back in line. But there are limited opportunities to try and get yourself through here. Pejic is certainly going to be very well aware of that. Going to follow quite closely, coming through turn four now, trying to get the drive off the corner so he can utilize the slipstream on this like mini full throttle section towards Shrevelac. Try and get yourself as close as possible. Within a quarter of a second now, up and towards that high speed downhill right-hander. Gassner's been able to hold on, but can he hold on for the last half of the lap here? That's the question. Pejic has been so good in terms of closing up this gap, but when it matters, maybe he won't be able to get the pass done unless it's an almighty dive or if there's a mistake from Gassner as they head their way through the middle sector for the final time. Coming out of turn 11, now into the Audi S. Still no opportunity for Marko Pejic to head his way through here. Sliding on the exit of the Audi S, and that's going to seal his fate, perhaps, of course. Start-finish line's quite far down the pit straight here, so there might be an opportunity coming out of the final corner to get the draft pass coming across the line. Is Pejic successful in that instance? He is not. It's Mark Gassner that comes across the line to win race 2 of Shootout number 2 here in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. Gassner is able to hold on in that Mercedes to that top spot. Fantastic stuff, and well, great job to keep his cool at the very end of the event there. Everyone else heading their way across the line now. Nüninghoff got himself a podium, by the way. Kripner in 4th, and Jajowski comes across the line in 5th. Isaac Price did get ahead of David Nagy at the end there. He's up into P6 as Nagy gets himself demoted into P7. Looks like most of everyone has headed their way across the line now. There's Mihai Neg coming across the line as the final car that's still running there. But we had a very close one. Close to a grandstand finish at the very end there between two drivers that were within a couple of tenths of a second of each other towards the checkered flag, but Gassner was the one that came out on top. It's a, well, it's a top 4 lockout for German drivers there, with Gassner, Pejic, Nüninghoff and Kripner taking those top spots, with Erhan Jajowski for Macedonia I believe, in P5, Isaac Price for Britain in P6. But we'll get the official order in just a couple of moments' time. And remember, it's kind of less than official because we do still have those potential penalties from the stewards being handed out after the event here today. So it's much more unofficial in that aspect. But that's race number 2 done here at Zandvoort. Next race, we'll be heading to the Nürburgring to decide exactly who goes through to the next stage of competition. Here are the results then from Zandvoort. Gassner P1, Pejic P2, Nüninghoff P3, Kripner P4. Jajowski finishes in P5 with Isaac Price in 6th, David Nagy in 7th, Fiduci in 8th, Rietveld, after an amazing start to the race, it just kind of came undone in the pit stops as he sped on pit lane and he got cycled all the way back. But he recovers up into P9, Pilska in P10, Kazubon P11 today, Ottaviani P12, Dinya P13, Vitzvogt P14, and Pfeiffer is the driver that's in the final points paying position in 15th. Stanger, the only Bentley in P16. Kevin Siggy down in P17. Not a great day for Mr. Kevin Siggy. He had a drive-through penalty as well, I believe, and so many other drivers. I think I lost count. Maybe it's been 7, 8 drivers actually that got themselves a slowdown penalty in that instance. But we head now into the Nürburgring as our final race here today. And well, I certainly cannot wait for it. It's absolutely brilliant stuff, and we'll be able to get ourselves that in just a couple of moments' time. Thank you very much, everyone, for continuing to view the stream and continuing to participate in the chat. And you know, it's fantastic to see you guys out there that are so passionate about the esports racing that goes on here. I'm certainly very passionate about it as well. But we'll get ourselves over to the Nürburgring in a few moments. I'm just waiting to get that session transferred over. We will just have to wait and see what the situation is regards to that. But of course, we're waiting for the points to get themselves updated as well. But we'll be back in just a couple of moments' time. And when we come back, we will have the Nürburgring in just a couple of moments. Bye-bye. A very short break, all things considered, but welcome back, everyone, to the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship 2021 Shootout number 2. Everything now comes down to this final race here at the Nürburgring to decide who are the final 14 drivers to get themselves an automatic qualification spot into the main season. I certainly cannot wait to see who is able to get there, who is unfortunately going to miss out. That's just life sometimes. You do miss out on things, you know, even if you try your absolute best to try and get up into those positions. And that's exactly what's going on right now with every single driver out there. They know how much potential prize money is on offer. You know, tens of thousands of euros potentially could be on the line when it comes to the main season. So you have to be in it to win it. That's the entire point of this qualifying process with these shootout races. But yeah, I'm having a look to see again. I am trying to keep track of the points. The points have not been updated on our spreadsheet just yet, so I can't say who's in with a chance of getting there or missing out at the moment. We'll have to wait and see once those points get themselves changed. But yes, we are here at the Nürburgring now. Of course, like I said when I introduced it at the top of the show, it's basically the home of German motorsports. I've been here to the venue many times myself. I haven't actually obviously driven on the GP circuit or anything, but and of course I haven't even driven on the Nordschleife either. So that's still a thing on my bucket list. But yeah, absolutely fantastic circuit indeed. Of course, you know, the GP circuit characterized by that very tight hairpin of turn number 1 and then in towards this section that you're seeing on circuit right now, the Mercedes-Benz Arena, which promotes a lot of side-by-side action, which we've already seen so far this event. And so I think we expect to see a little bit more coming into this race, that's for certain, especially as drivers start to get a little bit desperate to try and gain all the points possible to make sure they're inside the top 14. So this, you know, if there's going to be a place where drivers start to get in over their heads, it's going to be this one, where potentially everything is on the line. Just a minute left in practice before we get the qualifying started here, but there's still no telling who's going to hold the advantage into this one. You would have thought the German drivers would have a bit of a home turf advantage here, but of course this is a circuit that's popular with absolutely everyone. You know, on any motorsports sim or game, you know, it's everyone's going to be very experienced with this circuit. So maybe that home advantage is not going to be as much as what Rietveld got in the Zandvoort race, for example, due to being Dutch. So we'll just have to wait and see whether that comes to fruition. Of course, you can see the very early signs of things with the practice times here, but I don't tend to read too much into practice times, especially given that we only have a couple of minutes of them here. So yeah, we just have to push those aside and get ourselves ready and set for the final qualifying of the evening. Here we go then. Qualifying has now started. The drivers have gotten themselves the green light to exit the pit lane and to get out there on circuit for their out laps as they swarm down in towards turn number 1. Of course, like I said already 2 times previous, it's all about getting yourself the space to work with as far as qualifying is concerned here. It helps if you get a little bit of a draft. That's Peter Pilsker going out very wide, trying to fall to the very back of the field here, it seems. So he seems like he's one of those drivers that just prefers to kind of just run in their own space as far as qualifying is concerned here. Of course, like before, it's still 10 minutes of qualifying here to get your times in and to get yourself the spot on the starting grid. Of course, we see cars just slowing up, trying to space themselves out towards the end of the lap here to try and absolutely gun it out of the final corner to start their flying laps. Maybe a couple of shades of Monza here, how qualifying sessions usually go at Monza, for people trying to find the space and trying to get in people's drafts. But of course the draft is not as much of an effect here as it would be at a circuit such as that. But it seems like most of everyone has gotten themselves to the start-finish line now to start their flying laps here. Still waiting for points to be updated. I don't have the most recent points for you at the moment, but as soon as I have them, I will be able to tell them to you. So watch this space still. And there we go. I actually think we do now have the points updated, as that just kind of changes over under my eyes as we will, I'll go through them. So the drivers that are currently safe in terms of points in the top 14. So some of them are not entirely safe, but the top drivers definitely are. So Marko Pejic is P1 at the moment in points. Jajowski P2, Gassner P3, Nuninghoff P4, Rietveld in P5, Kevin Siggy in 6th, Fiduci 7th, Krippner 8th, Hilsker 9th, Nagy 10th. Then the final drivers that are currently above the cut line, Pinces, Pfeiffer, Price, and Ottaviani. So those are the top 14 drivers in points at the moment. The drivers that are missing out by a couple of points: Norbert Leitner, Kirill Antonov, Thibaut Kazobon, Moreno Sirica, Elita Digne, Luciano Wittvoet, and David Toth. Those are the drivers that have some points, but unfortunately have not got themselves above the 14th place required to be able to get an automatic qualification spot into the the upcoming season of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. So that's the current situation there in terms of points. Unfortunately, I can't pull up a graphic for you, so you can't visually see it. But I've just described it to you in that order for the moment. So I want to pay particular attention to certain drivers in this race. I want to pay attention to Pincez, Pfeiffer, Price, Ottaviani, Leitner, Antonov, Kazubon. Those are kind of the drivers that I'm looking at right now, as far as we're not entirely sure whether they'll be in at the end of this race or whether they will be out of the top 14 at the end. So you have to pay attention to that. Meanwhile, we have had the first couple of laps come through here in qualifying for the final race at the Nürburgring. Marco Pejic, provisional pole position with Adam Pincez in P2. So Pincez, that is a pretty crucial starting spot for him because he's currently in P11. He is not safe in terms of, for sure, getting himself up into the next stage of competition. So he's going to be pretty happy with that starting spot for the moment. Rietveld P3 as well. Rudinger. Rudinger is, let's see him on the points order. Where is Rudinger? Because I do not see him at the moment. Oh, he's down in P24. So Rudinger, he needs a huge points haul here today to be, or here at this race even, to be able to have any chance at getting into the top 14. Because of course, he's DNF'd from both races today. So for a driver that we expect to be a solid front of the mid-pack runner, usually for Rudinger, I believe. It's been an awful day, and this is his last chance, of course, to get himself qualified as a permanent driver into next season. And he's had DNFs in 2 of the 3 races today. So what he needs, ideally, looking at this, is a solid. He needs at least a top 5, if not a podium, here in this race to get through. That's the situation, I believe. Like to be for sure in the clear. Of course, it all depends on what happens elsewhere in terms of the pack, but that has to be the overall goal right now for Rudinger. Otherwise, he's going to have to rely on other people doing poorly to have any shot at trying to get in. So it's not the situation you want to be in, that's for sure. It coming down to this final race and still not having any points whatsoever, even though you had ample opportunity to be able to get yourself into some good spots. Rudinger though, fastest through Sector 1, green through Sector 2. Sector 3 time about to come up, and well, it says it was 2 seconds faster, but of course he took the toe back to pit lane, so that doesn't really count for Leon Rudinger there. So not going to happen for him. It was looking a good lap up, looking like a good lap up until then, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. Pincez now provisional pole position for the moment. He comes across the line to complete an out lap, so he'll be on one of his final flying laps here at the very end of this event. Lap times on the order, like you can see at the very top, in the order of about 1 minute 25 here at this one. So and some drivers going into the 126s, 127. So that's sort of the margin that we're looking at here in terms of the lap times for this qualifying session at the very end of the day. Yeah, the ADAC GT Merc and Audi Masters apparently. Yeah, that's just how the balance of performances kind of happened for today, with just the 2 manufacturers being the most competitive at the moment. In Shootout 1, we had a lot more variety. We had a couple of Corvettes, we had a couple of Porsches, we had a couple more Bentleys. Of course, we do have this Bentley still, the only Bentley in the race. Jan Stanger, who's committed to it against all of the common knowledge of everyone else, it seems, for going with either an Audi or a Mercedes. He's stuck with the Bentley. So I appreciate the hustle, Jan Stanger. I appreciate it, but it might not be the best plan to get yourself up into the top positions, unfortunately. Someone does point out we do have some very, very close times indeed, and you would be right. The top 30, so everyone in the field apart from the 2 drivers are all within a second. The top 3 drivers are all, well, I'll round it and say count top 4 drivers are all within the 1/10 of a second mark. So things are very, very close here. And now we're coming towards the end of the session. And look at that from Kevin Siggy. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. It's all on this final sector now for Kevin Siggy to potentially get himself onto the top step of the podium. Pincez is there at the moment. Can Siggy get himself up onto pole? Our question will be answered now, and it's yes. Kevin Siggy, pole position here for the final race of the day. Pejic, what's his lap times looking at? What's his sector times? Well, it's not a very great sector 1, about a 1/10 of a second slower than Kevin Siggy's. Sector 2, is there anything positive to say? No, absolutely not. So that's going to be the end of the qualifying session then. Pejic won't be able to make it to the line to complete the lap. Kevin Siggy on pole position. Adam Pincez on the front row as well. Erhan Yayoski P3, Marko Pejic P4, Kirill Antonov, that's crucial for his chances at qualifying. He's in P5. Baldorf, in P6. Jeffrey Rietveld in P6. Thibaut Kazubon, great qualifying, up into P8. Jonas Vanner, Leon Rudinger gets himself up into P10. Rionald Krippner, P11. Nagy, 11th. Toff, 13th. Gassner, 14th. And then you can see the rest of the names up on screen. Not a great qualifying for Isaac Price, not a great qualifying from Leitner either. So they have some work to do over the course of this race as well. Five minutes before we get ourselves the start of the final race of the shootout here. We've had 6 races in total, including, of course, the first shootout last week, where we got our first set of drivers through into the permanent driver slots. But now it comes down to this for the rest of them. This is the last chance for some drivers to get themselves secured in those automatic qualification spots. I wonder if anyone watching has any particular pick for this race, because we saw the times were so close at the very front of the field. So I'm interested to see who seems to be the favorite for this particular event, because I certainly can't decide between any of the front drivers out right now. It's like any of them might have the race pace to be able to win here today. Of course, Kevin Siggy, getting himself to the pole position at the very last moment. Pincez has always looked pretty strong. You can't count out Ilyovsky. You can't count out Pejic as well. Always been a great driver. So any of those top 4 for me could potentially win this one. So that's a pretty exciting prospect. So like I said before, the drivers that I would keep a close attention on in this race. Pincez, again, he's in a great spot right now to try and get himself that qualification spot. Pfeiffer is at risk of dropping outside the top 14. Price and Ottaviani, it's the same sort of situation for them. The drivers that are outside of the top 14 but could get themselves inside the top 14 by the end. Norbert Leitner, Kirill Antonov, Thibaut Kazubon, Marinus Richer, Adi Titinier, Wittvoet and Toth. Those are the drivers that could potentially get themselves up into those into that top 14, which is so crucial. Koenigsegg says, imagine if everyone is 0.0001 off of each other. Well, that's kind of what it felt like for a couple of the qualifying sessions already, and a couple of the races as well, because a lot of drivers have been able to keep themselves in their sort of packs, in their trains. So, you know, that's been mostly what the situation has been for both these shootouts and for last season even in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. So that's just the natural way of things when you have people that are so close together. It will be a pleasure for guys who love trains. Yes. I like trains of cars when they're fighting. I don't like them so much when they're all staying in line, not trying to fight with each other. But maybe that's just me as a commentator talking, where I prefer to commentate on side-by-side battles than just single cars going around on circuit. But I might be a little bit biased in that respect. Just under a minute, though, before we get the gridding procedure started for our final race of this shootout stage of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. Welcome back, Damien DeGrasse, just back in time for this, and, well, great timing, because we are just about to start, and this has all the signs of potentially being a pretty crazy race. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. You all should be looking forward to it as well. For some drivers, this is just going to be a fun race because they've already automatically qualified. You know, the points situation for them is looking great. So I'm talking about Pajic, Siggy, Jajovski, Rietveld. All those drivers have, for all intents and purposes, already locked themselves in. But everyone else, well, this is a little bit more on the line for them. So we head on over to the gridding stage then. Drivers getting themselves ready and set here for the final race of shootout number 2. Who is going through to be a permanent driver in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship, and who is going to have to be without, have to go home and say that they can't compete in the next upcoming season. That's what's on the line here as drivers get themselves ready. The chance at getting yourself the ticket to compete in a championship with a couple of tens of thousands of euros on a line. That's that, you know, prize pool, absolutely fantastic. Could be even bigger as well, but here we go. Red lights are on. We're about to go racing here at the Nürburgring for the final time in the shootout stage. And we're green, we're off and away, here we go, as the drivers swarm and fan out across those grid spots. Lots of defensive moves going on towards the inside and towards the pit wall there. Here comes the moves on the brakes in towards that very tight turn one. We got to see 3 wide there. Jeffrey Rietveld embroiled in the thick of things here. They're in P4. There's Marko Pajic behind him trying to go around his outside through the Mercedes arena for the first time here. Kirill Antonov also looking to try and to find a space to run as well. He's going to go side by side with Rudinger. So Rudinger, is he going to miss out here? No, he'll continue to make it door to door on the way into the next corner now, into the right-hander. Cutting across. And now Pajic is filing in behind Antonov there. So Antonov still remains in that P5, which is where he started, I believe. So a decent amount of action for him at the opening stages of this event. There's the entire train of traffic heading their way through. We've already had 1 retirement, by the way. Ilya Drofosikov is out, so that'll seal their hopes as far as championship in terms of top 14 is concerned. Coming through the final couple of corners now to complete the first lap here of this 40-minute event. Siggy leads the way from Pincers, from Jajovski, from Rietveld, from Antonov. That's the order as they head their way across the line and then down in towards turn number 1 for the second time. Rietveld looking, they showed the nose on Yayovsky coming down into that turn 1. A little bit of side-by-side further back through the pack. It was Krippner and David Nagy. So Krippner involved in everything here. ES drivers looking down his inside all over the place right there. And who's that going out into the wide line? I think that was Isaac Price. Price having a bit of trouble here. He has Nürburgring all over the back of him on the way into the next corner, and now Nürburgring trying to go around the outside of him through the right-hander and doesn't find any success out there. These guys are fighting very, very hard. Oh, someone's off. Someone's off hard into the background. Otto Viani. Otto Viani has crashed in the opening couple of corners of the lap here. And he takes the tow back to pit lane. So Otto Viani is now out. So he was in with an outside shot at getting himself in. I don't think he'll be able to get himself inside the top 14 now, that's for sure. Yeah, he was 18th. He's now not going to be able to get himself through. So that's one of the first drivers that was in contention for the top 14 spots. Has dropped out of the event now due to that incident coming through coming out of the first sector of the lap. Of course, a very short lap here because we are not using the full the full GP layout of the Nürburgring. We are using the slightly shortened layout, which misses out the Dunlop curve, and so that's the shortened layout that we are having to use now. So the laps do go by rather quickly here at this particular layout. Of course, it also misses out the Michael Schumacher S as well. So Dunlop and Schumacher S are the corners that we're not going to be taking in this race. Of course, a couple more as well. There's your leading train coming through the final couple of corners. Ever since the very start of the race, these guys have been relatively calm, but that's mostly because it is the very early stages of the race at the moment, so there's not really much of a reason to fight. But if you are fighting, like these guys are in the secondary train that we're seeing right now, then why not? Just go hell for leather and go for it. And that's exactly what Baldoff is doing right now, trying to go down the middle. But now you can see that David Toth going around the outside. He's got one pass done. He might be able to get the second pass done as well here. And he has to be careful not to crowd, or rather that was Fiduci, excuse me. There's Fiduci going around the outside there. So Toth ends up losing that position there. Sometimes it's a little confusing with the order, but Fiduci able to get those passes done in very, very quick fashion. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Look at Baldoff. He's just leaning on the back of Toth, going through the corner. Not giving Toth a lot of room to breathe. But they all space themselves out for the next couple of corners. Jonas Vanner's on the side-by-side behind. Nagy versus Krippner. Nagy going the long way around. Isaac Price is trying to stick his nose in as well on the way up in towards the NGK chicane now. Nagy, well, Nagy's got himself through. He's still staying ahead just about as he squeezes through. Now yet more potential action behind that whole situation because it stacked everyone up here inside the final sector. So now there are ample opportunities to try and find your way down the inside here at the that's turn 1. Nürburgring having to try and defend from Isaac Price here as Price looks down the inside at turn 1, and Nürburgring gets loose off the corner, so he loses the position. And Martin Stefanko, we haven't talked about him all that much over the course of this race. He's looking all over the back to try and get that P17 away from Nürburgring. But remember, these positions are not for any points because points-paying positions only go down to P15. So that's where the Krippner is. So that's P15 there. That's where that Mahler car is, P15. that's when you start scoring points. Someone's off ahead, someone's heavy into the barriers as well. Balduf has had a massive, massive moment at the start of the final sector, and I'm afraid that's going to be a tow back to pit lane. So Balduf now out of this race. And he was P16 in points coming into this. So that's another driver that was just outside of the top 14, out of the event. To the final corner now for the vast majority of your fields. Good handful of retirements so far in this one, unfortunately. We've had Balduf, Rodriguez, Grabowski, Stanger, Ottaviani, Leitner and Dravosikov out of the race early on here. Pilska looking down the inside of Pfeiffer. Not going to be able to get that one done. Looking a little bit further up the field though, because things have closed up very slightly between, well, not slightly, a lot, between Jeffrey Rietveld and Kirill Antonov, as Antonov looks to try and improve position here. Remember, Antonov was, let's see, well, the points are being updated as I'm talking about it now, so that's beneficial to see. Antonov is now qualified. If he finishes where he is and everyone else finishes where they are, Kirill, with finishing P5, he will be able to qualify into the main season. But again, things can very much change over the next 31 minutes that we have remaining here today. The driver that's currently in P14 in terms of points is Pfeiffer right now. So Pfeiffer, P18, he's not scoring any points in this race right now, but he's still just about hanging on by a thread in terms of the automatic, it is the permanent driver slot for next season. Things getting very, very tight indeed for the positions just inside of the top 5 there. Pit window will open in about a minute's time, so that's when drivers will decide to, well, the first couple of drivers will decide to come down in towards pit lane. Page went very wide there. I think he was looking towards the outside of Antonov, but got it absolutely horribly wrong, and now he's coming under threat from Leon Rudinger from behind. And Rudiger's down in P20, so he needs to gain a... actually, scratch that. I'll come back to you on that one, about where Rudinger is, because the points have just been updated, but they haven't been sorted just yet. So we'll have to wait for that to happen, and then I'll be able to tell you exactly where Rudinger is in terms of the points standings. Close action for those final points paying positions though. There's Isaac Price, who currently sits in P15, scoring 1 point at the moment. He is currently P15, so he needs to get 1 more position over Pfeiffer, or at least to get ahead of Pfeiffer, and he will be in the automatic qualification spot. But now this is going to mess everything up, because a couple of drivers, or a good handful of drivers actually, are heading their way on towards the safety of pit lane. Kirill Antonov was one of the top drivers to come down in that time around, and there he is. Lots and lots and lots and lots of drivers coming down in at this very early stage. I would hazard the guess we've got about a third to a half of the drivers coming down in at this point in the event. Coming down in at the earliest opportunity to try and complete the undercut. This is Nooning. Oh, Antonov! No! Antonov! He's got himself a a drive-through penalty for speeding on the pit lane. Oh no! It was looking so good for the Russian, but now it's going to put a damper on his efforts to get enough points to qualify. We'll have to see how much of an effect that drive-through penalty has, where it puts him, what position he puts it back into. But that's not great. And Snudnikov just steamed right by Isaac Price there, interestingly enough. Just went straight through. Maybe something going on there with Isaac Price. But meanwhile, Rest of the drivers heading their way across the line. No one else from the top couple of positions coming down into pit just yet. Yeah, we've had about, I would say, a third, if not slightly less than a third, actually, come down towards the pit lane. Here comes the battle between Thibaut Kazubon and Fiduci, as Fiduci just kind of stalls on the exit of the of turn 1 there on the outside, not able to continue the action coming into the Mercedes-Benz arena. Yeah, all drivers on towards pit lane. There's Alita Digne. You've got Nico Nudenhoff also coming down in as well. So there he is, now coming off of pit lane. So drivers coming in just in little groups at the moment to try and get their stops done. There might be a fight off of pit lane here between Stefanko and Nudenhoff, but yeah, no, Nudenhoff is out pretty safely ahead. A couple of cars fishtailing coming through the exit of turn 1. The rear traction has really been a problem towards the end of this, the stints here and towards the ends of the races, especially where the tyres just start to go away a little bit and you start to struggle for grip a little bit more. Fiduci in, so yet another driver to come down in. That marks about half of the drivers now to come down in. Of course, those are from P26 to 32, those are retirement, so of course they will never have to come down in and get their scheduled stops. So just over half drivers come down in for their stops at the moment. Rietveld also in, there he is. So the Dutch driver comes down in for his final pit stop service, going to get some tyres, put that on that car, absolutely fine. Kevin Siggy also came down in as well. He's off and away as well. So there we go. He's going to head his way out on towards the circuit and going to maintain the race lead for now. Leon Rudinger, Jajowski, Kazubon have not come down in just yet. Isaac Price, neither has he. He's staying out as well. Pincez came down in. Oh, Pincez, no! What's happened to Pincez? He stopped on the entry towards turn 1. What is happening? He takes the toe. What happened to Pincez? I saw him falling down the order because I assumed he made a pit stop, but he was stopped before turn 1. That's a weird one. I didn't quite see any damage on that car either. So that's going to be very interesting to see what exactly has happened to that Audi, because that doesn't compute for me. But it does mean that Pincez, let's see, potentially might be falling out of the qualifying, the top 14. So of points. So we'll have to see though, because nothing's ever a guarantee in these events. It all depends on where everyone else finishes as far as the points are concerned. Kirill Antonov down on towards pit lane. This is for Kirill's the drive-through. So he sped on pit lane and now has to take this drive-through penalty. It drops him way back further through the order. Battle between Pajic and Toth coming in towards the turn 1. Toth looking to try and get the up and under done, trying to get some momentum off the corner, but not successful. Now we'll look to challenge and give a shot to the back bumper coming through the start of the Mercedes-Benz arena. Letting him know he's there, that's all he's doing, I'm pretty sure. Johan Jajowski is getting pressured a huge amount by Jeffrey Rietveld at the moment. He's having to defend quite firmly and will probably have to do so for the next 24 minutes if he wants to try and keep hold of that position, because Rietveld is a very, very strong driver indeed. Rietveld, has he got the run up and towards the NGK chicane? Yes, he has. He'll look to the inside into the chicane now. This can be quite sketchy. There's not a lot of room to maneuver, so expect some dooring coming through there. They're able to negotiate it just fine. Rietveld trying to drive around the outside here at the final turn. He's overcooked it though, I feel. Yes, he has, so he has to fall back in line. He got a bit of a slide on, and you can see how unhappy Jajowski was about that. You can just see, he saw the weaving in front saying, yeah, don't do that. And now Rietveld's going to try and show the nose and try and respond down the inside. Runinger comes off a pit lane, by the way. That's the car coming off of the lane behind them. So he drops into this battle, pretty much. Of course, he's going to have better tyres for the end of this event now. So that's the situation for Runinger. Pfeiffer is Max, right? Yes, Max Pfeiffer is, yes, that is him. So he's down in P18 at the moment. There he is. Currently involved in a bit of a scrap with Ciara ahead and Antonov behind. So that's where Antonov got fouled back into after the penalty. So outside of the points paying positions. Thibaut Casabon and Fiduci also close here. Just a handful of tenths of a second between the two of them. You can see the flashing of the lights from Thibaut Casabon as well as they head their way up in towards the ENG chicane. Again, there's a slight little look, a very slight little look from Fiduci into the chicane, but no commitment at all on the brakes into there. Oh, big moment! Oh no! Fiduci into the wall at the exit of turn, at the exit of the final turn. What has happened there? I think he pushed a little bit wide, but I'm not sure whether there was any contact in that because, well, to be honest, we didn't get the best angle of it. So with this long shot down the pit straight, but Fiduci, heavy damage and losing a whole bunch of positions now as he gets down into P21. My word, things keep changing. Fiduci was 7th in the standings before that, and now he's going to lose a whole bunch of points. So the points order will shuffle once again here, so we're going to have to wait for an update on that as well. Everything just keeps changing. A lot of drivers having major incidents here. Antonov still continuing to try and fight for this final points paying position. Just leaning on the back of Ciara coming through the corner. Coming up to the halfway point, we're 1 minute away from the halfway point of this race. What an interesting race it's been so far. You know, it's been characterized by, well, first race was characterized by just crazy action. Second race was characterized by pit lane speed infractions. And this third race has just been incidents and spins and hard impact with the barrier. It's been pretty crazy. But right now, the only driver yet to come in and get their scheduled stop done is Isaac Price. So we're waiting for him to do so. And then Kevin Siggy will re-inherit the race lead. Yeah, here comes the move then from Antonov into turn 1. No, we're just going to stay in line. Went defensive, did Ciara. Ciara's now going to have to try and defend through the Mercedes-Benz arena. Antonov looking for the line. Antonov clips the curb and he spins out into the grass. Oh no, it happens time and time again, doesn't it, in this race? Lots of drivers having big problems, solo problems, and Antonov just adds his name to the list of drivers that have had issues. You can see the idea here. He was waiting for that inside to open up, but got a bit too greedy up over the curb and it unsettled the car and span him towards the inside onto the grass. And now Antonov is going to have a big job to try and get up into qualifying top 14. Pfeiffer, though, he's kind of the driver that's been there or thereabouts. He's still, at least with the most recent updated points I have, he's still the driver in P14 in points right now, and he's trying to fight with Ciara, and he gets through on Ciara, so Pfeiffer gains an extra point by getting up into that 15th place. Let's see if he's able to hold on to it though, because Vitvoet has also been able to squeeze through on Ciara as well. They'll get close, coming down to score. Here comes Ciara with a big dive down the inside of Vitvoet at turn 1. Again, but it's a big struggle to try and complete this move, trying to go around the outside here at Mercedes-Benz Arena. And Vitvoet just is able to get himself through. Great pass there. Very late move into the hairpin, but he was given the space. The pass has been negotiated, so Wittvoet up into P16. He can go chasing after that final podium position of that Max Pfeiffer currently holds. Great stuff in this. Well, a lot of silly stuff in this race, but also some decent action as well. I'm keeping an eye on the battle for P2, by the way, because that still remains inside a second. So it's a 0.6 of a second right now. It's been fluctuating in and out somewhat, but Jajowski currently in that second place. You see Rietveld in third and Rudinger on the back of that 3-car train in 4th place. So that's the situation there. So we'll keep an eye on that one to see how that develops. They're side by side in this pack, as there's just coming out of the final corner from P16 and back this one. So defending to the inside then. Here comes Ciara to the outside at turn 1. There's Fiduci to the outside at turn 1, trying to get through on Nagy, as Nagy has to try to hold position, but hasn't quite been able to do so. Looking for the cut back off the corner, though. Looking to the inside now for turn 3. But he will be the outside for turn 4, which is not exactly ideal. Let's see if he's able to carry the speed. Not quite. So Fiduci is able to get back through up into P18. Yeah, red circle means they haven't served their pit stops, but of course you can see that the everyone from P24 and down has retired. So obviously if they hadn't done their pit stop by the time they retired, they're still not going to be counted as doing the pit stop. So everyone that matters and is still running have all completed their scheduled stops. I have current points. I have Pejic. Okay, these are the drivers that are safe at the moment, or rather are in the top 14 to qualify at the moment. So Pejic, Siggy, Jajowski, Rietveld, Pinces, Gassner, Fiduci, Nudinghoff, Antonov. Still technically, well, I wouldn't say he's qualifying at the moment because he's down in, he's on 5 points, so I wouldn't count him as qualifying. So we'll have to wait until the order sorts itself out. Look at this battle, the 3 wide into turn 1. That's not going to work, surely. I mean, there was almost bits of contact in there. Fiduci involved in the middle of things, as I was briefly looking at my spreadsheet to see the state of the points at the moment. So that's when they decide to battle. That's just the way of things sometimes. Coming up to 15 minutes to go. These positions right now that you can see are not for points paying positions. They're just for pride at the moment, and just for track positions, just in case someone ahead has bigger problems. Battle for P2 has closed in. Look how close the battle for P2 is now. Look at that. That's crazy close between Erhan Jajowski, and Jajowski's going to go all the way to the pit wall to try and defend this one. Rietveld might have to go the long way. He's going to try and commit to it. No, he's going to dive back down towards the inside. There's another move from Jajowski on the brakes towards turn number 1. Rietveld gets through, but he's overcooked it here, and Jajowski can come back. Rudiger's now getting himself involved. He's trying to drive around the outside at turn 2. He's got the momentum here. He's got the position as well. Dives to the inside to make sure the move isn't available for Rietveld to try and head his way back through. But that was a little sketchy there coming into turn 1. Lots of moves, and I'm pretty sure there was more than one defensive move there into the corner for Jajowski, which might be a problem that the stewards will have to sort out a little bit later. But that's the battle for P2 at the moment, and it's still hot as ever. These guys giving us a great display. Whether or not the driving has been completely up to the standards of the stewards, that is still remains to be seen. But great action nonetheless, though. Let's see what the situation is this time coming out of the final corner into towards turn 1. Is there more forceful defending from Jajowski, or is he going to be a little bit more accommodating of the drivers? I don't think he's going to be the latter, though, because, well, at least from what is actions has been so far. He hasn't been too keen on giving lots of opportunities to the drivers behind. Whoa, just as I say that, he pushes wide through turn 1, so that's almost another example of the commentator's curse. Okay, I have updated points. So, drivers currently top 14, Pejic, Jagovski, Siggy, Rietveld, Gassner, Nuninghoff, Krippener, Fiduci, Kazubon, Pilska, Runinger, Price, Nagy and Pfeiffer. Those are the top 14 at the moment. Pfeiffer is ahead by 1 point at the moment. That's how close the battle for P14 in the standings are at the moment. But his closest competitor, Pinces, is out of the race, so the effective gap is a little bit larger. Coming up to 12 minutes to go. 12 minutes feels like an eternity in this sort of situation where everyone has been oh so close together for such a major portion of this race. We're continuing to look at the battle for P2 on screen. Siggy has kind of just driven away from everyone at the moment. He's 5 seconds ahead of these guys, so he's done a very good job at pulling the gap. He will likely come across the line to take the race win at the end of this one. Remember, there continues to be battles further back in the pack. Ooh, Rudinger, does he have the run here? He has to be careful of the run off there. Stays line astern for now at the moment. Yes, someone has noticed the amount of retirements that we've had in this race. Yeah, we've had 7 people retire from the race, which is the 7 cars that you can see laps down at the very back. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for those guys. A lot of names as well. Pinces in particular having a weird problem where he just kind of stopped on circuit for no reason, or seemingly no reason. And he was one of those drivers that was on the edge of going in or into the next stage of competition or out. But he is very much out at this stage. Yeah, 2 after the pit stops indeed. Battle between Kripner and Nuninghoff. Nuninghoff on the inside through what's called the Coca-Cola curve, the final corner at this circuit. And now we see them go door to door into turn 1. Nuninghoff still on the inside here. We'll have the preferential line coming in towards turn 1, but that switches back quite quickly. Whoa, big incident, big shunt from Stefanko into the back of Kripner, but they're able to hold things together and continue on racing. The contacts are a lot more forgiving, I suppose, but because otherwise that would have been a major crash there into turn 1, but everyone holding together and keeping together. We are coming up to the final 9.5 minutes of the race now. Well inside the final quarter of race number 3. We've had we've had 2 other fantastic races over the course of today, and this one has been definitely not short on the action. I will say that. Definitely not. So hopefully we can get some in the closing laps as well, especially for the for P2 and back at the moment. That's kind of has separated out a little bit, but again, it's something that's very worthwhile to pay attention to at the very front, just in case things change, and things can change very, very quickly here. Just tell that to Rietveld at Zandvoort when he got that drive-through penalty after speeding on pit lane. Is this the final shootout, Kunizzi? Yes, it is the final shootout. So this is the last chance for drivers to get themselves qualification spots or permanent driver spots in the main season. the updated points right now, at least those on the edge. Well, we got Isaac Price's through, Nagi's through, Pfeiffer's through. Those are the three that are on the bottom end of the top 14. The driver's narrowly missing out at the moment. Pin says who's out of the entire race. Toth, who's in P7 at the moment, he's not doing quite enough to get himself inside the top 14. He's missing out by a point at the moment, despite finishing in, well, despite being in 7th at the moment. Jonas Vanna still not doing enough at the moment. Ottaviani also, well, he's out, so he won't be able to qualify at all. Norbert Leitner, he's out, so he won't be able to qualify. Antonov, he's out, so he won't be able to qualify. Sarika, where is Sarika? I think he's out. Yes, he is also out. So a lot of these drivers are just outside the top 14 are out at the moment. So this kind of might be signed, sealed, and delivered in terms of the drivers qualifying for next season, unless there's a huge dramatic change at the end of this. Can you switch the camera on board? I don't have the. I don't think there's a setting. I can see it. I can press it. I can press dash, but it doesn't work. So there might be a setting I need to change to actually have that happen. Unfortunately, so we're gonna have to stick with the TV cams for the moment. I'm pretty sure there's a setting I need to change. Of course, this is a new PC and it's a new fresh install, so maybe I haven't enabled something in the settings with regards to that. But next time I'm producing one of these, I'll make sure of that. So, so maybe when the new season comes. But coming into the final 6.5 minutes now, Yayovsky still maintaining this P2 and has kind of given himself a little bit of breathing room back to P3. So it's up to about 0.8 of a second now. So Rudiger's tires, once again, starting to go away maybe a little bit more at the very end of this one. Yayovsky is doing a very good job of pulling the gap. Rietveld, though, maintaining touch of Rudiger. But again, not in a position where he's going to be able to overtake at the moment. This is the battle for P10, or rather, it's more like it's for P11 right now, as Krippner is having to defend quite heavily to Isaac Price. When is the next race, Sean? Well, it's going to be a couple of months' time, unfortunately. That's when the main season's going to start. So it's going to be a bit of a break before we get ourselves the next race in ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. But certainly we will definitely pay attention to all of the RaceRoom social media to see exactly when the season will start. I'm not sure whether the actual season start is public yet, but that's just why I'm being quite tight-lipped at the moment. But Isaac Price getting very close to Krippner on the way into the ENG chicane. You can see that's why Krippner had to go to a defensive line. Look at this, Baldo for P3. Rietveld is looking to try and make the move on Rudiger. Rudiger's trying to defend the inside. He almost makes contact with Rietveld there as they'll continue the fight through the Mercedes-Benz Arena now. Rietveld getting the inside for both turn 2 and turn 3 as well. There's contact, both of them push wide through the corner. Big amount of oversteer for Rietveld as Rudiger can come back at him and squeezes through at the exit of turn 4. That's the sort of fighting that we've kind of expected to see over the course of the last couple of events. Lots of drivers knowing what's on the line. Maybe not so much for those in the top couple of positions, but for those further back, certainly at this stage, if they're worried that they won't be able to qualify into the next stage of the competition, into the main season. Just a handful of minutes to go now. It's, well, a couple of places to look at for these last laps. Rudiger battle between Rudiger and Rietveld for P3. There's this between Kripner and Price for P11, and Stefanko's also involved in this as well. That's one of the battles that we can enjoy to the end of this race. You can see Kripner going all the way to the pit wall to try and defend the line coming into turn 1, and well, Price is looking to try and go the long way around. Stefanko waiting patiently in the wings for these guys to mess up. Here comes the up and under attempt from Price coming on the exit of turn 1. Can't get anything done there. We'll follow closely through turn 2 instead. You can have a lunge at turn 3 if you want, but Kripner makes sure he comes across to try and make sure that that does not happen whatsoever. So there's no option for Price to be able to stick his nose in at any of those corners. Battle is closing, by the way, for P3. It's closing once again, shall I say, because we saw these guys give a little bit of a duel a lap or so ago, and they're getting close to being able to do so again towards the end of this. So we're going to get these fights at the end, I promise. But, oh, that's a slightly wide entry for Rudinger. Of course, yeah, there's room for a wide entry through there if you want to get the best speed off the corner, but it's very, very risky. Rietveld trying to capitalize, trying to sit inside the slipstream, forcing Rudinger to go defensive. Okay, don't weave like that in the braking zone, Rudinger. It's not nice. Now Rietveld is going to try and come at it now through this first sector. Does he find the speed? Does he find the inside of turn 3? No, there's the move across for Rudinger to deny the line. This is going to be the main battle that we'll focus on. We've got Kripner and Price as well, who are still so close, but Kripner is doing an amazing job to hold on to that position at the moment. He, under immense pressure from both drivers behind, actually. Both Price and Stefanko have been big in the mirrors, but Kripner has been able to deal with all of the pressure, and it's great to see a driver that's in his element in terms of defense, because it's not acknowledged too much here. We always marvel at a driver that has been able to make an amazing pass, but not so much when drivers have been able to hold positions under huge amounts of pressure. So credit where credit's due. Kripner's doing an amazing job here, and he'll have 1 lap to go, I think, coming across the line. So just another lap for Kripner to try and defend. There's the update on the battle between Rudinger and Rietveld for P3. Rietveld not close enough into the first corner. That's one of the big opportunities now on this final lap to try and get past, but Rudinger simply was too far ahead of Rietveld for Rietveld to be able to do anything into there. So Rudinger definitely has increased his chances by a huge margin at finishing in that 3rd place. There is the battle for P11. Kripner still remaining ahead. There, the time has expired. Checkered flag going to be out next time. Kevin Siggy heads his way towards the start-finish line. There he is out there as well. Kevin Siggy, what a performance in this race. Ran away with things at the very front. 7 seconds is the gap between himself and Rudinger. Looking back at the Kripner, Price and Stefanko battle, that still is super tight, but not going to be changing at the moment as we look at Kevin Siggy as the driver that wins this race. He heads his way out of the final corner. It's one to the many races that Kevin Siggy has won here in RaceRoom Esports competition. He heads his way across the line to win here at the Nürburgring for the final race of the shootout number 2. Let's have a look back to a couple of drivers. There's Mark Garsner and David Toth that have been battling all of a sudden coming through this final lap, but they will finish as they are, P7, P8. There's the battle between Kripner, Price and Stefanko, and Kripner has done just about enough to hold on to P11 here, up against all odds there. Fantastic stuff from the German driver to keep 2 very quick drivers behind him. But that is going to be it. A couple of other drivers, you know, the last finishers heading their way across the line now. Pfeiffer, as someone has quite rightfully mentioned, comes across the line in P14. And, I mean, he was already P14 in terms of points, so that kind of secures it a little bit more for Pfeiffer in this one. So there we go. He's going to be pretty happy with his performance. Of course, this is all pending post-race review, and of course, we haven't got final confirmation in terms of the points just yet. But I'll be able to get that to you as soon as those points have been made available to me. That's the situation there. But yeah, what a great couple of events that we've had. You know, some fantastic action in this final race. You know, race number 1 was absolute craziness at the Red Bull Ring. With passes going on left, right, and center. I'm pretty much losing my voice already here at the end of the 3 races that we've had. It's very challenging to do this solo, but we'll just wait for the technically unofficial results to come through here at race number 3, and then potentially we can get a sneaky look at the point standings at the end here. Here we go then. This is the unofficial order at the end of race 3. Kevin Siggy wins. Rudinger, 2nd place. Rietveld, 3rd. Kazubon, great finish, 4th place. That might have just done enough for him to, well, I think it has done enough for him to qualify into the main season as a permanent driver. Johan Nijovski in P5, Marko Pejic P6, David Toth in P7, Gassner in P8, Vanna P9, and Nuninghoff rounds out the top 10. And then those drivers at the very end of the points paying positions, P11 through 15 is Krippner, Price, Stefanko, Pfeiffer, and Fiduci gets the last points there. And so those drivers out of the points, Ciara, Pilska, Vitovet, Neg, Kunze, Nagy, and Dinya, and those names further and further back. So, of course, the server will reset here. I'm just waiting for confirmation of the points. I can see one of our lovely race administrators, race stewards, is currently editing the spreadsheet at the moment. So they will these points will be confirmed in just a couple of moments' time. So I'll get those to you in a bit. But how about that, everyone? Thank you very much for joining me. I see a lot of comments in the well, a handful of comments in the chat saying great quality racing and commentary tonight. Big thumbs up. Thank you guys. It really means a lot to me that you guys appreciate the broadcast and appreciate my words that come out of my mouth. Sometimes they make some form of sense. Sometimes they're sometimes exciting. But yeah, we'll just have to push past that. I think now I have the points, so we will go through them one by one. So, driver that finished top in terms of points, Marko Pejic is through. Kevin Siggy is through. Rietveld, Jajowski, Gassner, Nuninghoff, Fiduci, Rudinger, Krippner, Kazubon, Pilska, Price, Nagy, and Pfeiffer are through as it stands. Of course, this all depends on the post-race review and if there are any incidents or penalties that needs to be handed out in that situation. But right now, that's the order that I'm seeing on the points calculations that we have at the moment. So great job to those 14 drivers. They, of course, join the other 14 drivers that qualified from Shootout number 1. So those are Jack Keithley, Christopher Högfeld, Nestor Garcia, Tim Yarshall, Ben Spanky, Jacob Brzezinski, Jojo Baldi, Moritz Lohner, Michael Raschel, Lucas Müller, Florian Hasse, Nikitin Wisniewski, Alexander Dorniten, and Martin Barmer. So those are the 28 drivers that get themselves qualified into the main season of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. It's been a crazy, well, 2 events here. Fantastic action, great battling, lots of respectful driving in a lot of cases as well, which is always beneficial in situations like this. There's my name. I'm Connery Maddock. I am at RaptorosCasts on Twitter. If you want to go and follow me there, I'll put it in the chat in just a couple of moments. But that's going to be the end of things here today, unfortunately. Thank you guys very much for joining me. The chat has been amazing, as always. Again, it's crazy that I get to do this for RaceRoom and for a lot of other clients as well that I get to work with. It's I would never have imagined it, but here we go. Thank you very much, everyone. And remember, of course, I will also be on the broadcast for the main season as well. Of course, we'll see lots of the other drivers that took part in this race. And, of course, in Shootout number 1, take part in the main season of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship 2021, powered by EnBW Mobility Plus. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. And I'll see you when the season starts. So goodbye.